This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. The Grey Cup is over and it's back to Jet season, and the team returns home tonight for a big 3-game homestand, taking on the plucky Columbus Blue Jackets tonight, who were in action last night at home in Seabus and going the distance, beating the Montreal Canadiens in a shootout. Bob McElligott from the Blue Jackets media is going to join us. We'll get a little bit more on the visitors tonight, a team that, obviously it's been struggling over the last number of years, looking to make that next step in and become a playoff team. And listen, they're in the middle of an absolute cluster of teams in the Eastern Conference right now, holding down the final wild card spot with 22 points, which is the same number of points the Jets come into, albeit the Jets have one game in hand. And there's only 4 points from the wild card team to the two teams that are in last in the East. Many of you will love to know that the Toronto Maple Leafs are one of those teams, along with the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo got a big win last night at the expense of the Edmonton Oilers. So we're still kind of feeling our way out through this season right now. There's a ton of teams just that are packed in that 22 point to 18 point spot, particularly in the East. But even if you look in the West right now, the Jets are holding down the third spot in the Central Division at 22 points. The Blackhawks and Golden Knights are the other two wild card spots with 22 points. And then you've got Utah and Minnesota and Edmonton, who also have 22. So there's no separation between these teams right now. But this is a big, big homestand for the Winnipeg Jets. And I know Connor, when we were talking yesterday on the program, said that the game on Calgary on Saturday night, we can't say it's a must win, but it was a can't lose. And I would suggest with the Blue Jackets having to travel late last night, coming in today, having played into overtime yesterday, the Jets with a day off and a day of practice yesterday, this is a game that you got to have. So must win, no. Can't lose, yes. And there is good news that Morgan Barron is back for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll hear from Barron. We'll hear from Scott Arniel. We'll get a little bit on the visitors coming into tonight. And Brandon Rewucki is going to join us as well. We'll get his thoughts on the Jets heading into this homestand and into, of course, NHL American Thanksgiving next week, which historically has been a time where you got to be above the playoff line. But this is a unique year. Everyone goes to overtime every night. There's no separation between any teams. So it might be more like New Year's this year as opposed to American Thanksgiving to kind of really see the delineation between those teams. Mike O'Shea is back with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He spoke today. We will get to some of O'Shea's comments on the program. And we will wrap up some of our Grey Cup convos in the second hour of the program. Joe Pascucci was in for the entire Grey Cup week, our resident WST historian, if you will. Looking forward to getting his thoughts on, what his experience here over the course of the week for Grey Cup, a little bit about the game. And Joe always has amazing stories from back in the day. If you missed it last week, had a wild story about the day the Grey Cup came to Fargo, North Dakota. And I meant to do this last week. We were so tied up in on the game. We'll get him to talk about that. It'll be a fun way to finish off the program in the second hour of the program. But lots of hockey talk right off the bat. And we'll focus in on the Jets as they look to get off on a winning note to begin this homestand coming off that 2-4 road trip. Listen, just before we bring in Michael Remis, shout out to everybody in chat. Welcome to all you podcast listeners. Looking forward to seeing many of you with us in 316 for Nikolai Ehlers' return on Friday night when the Carolina Hurricanes come to town. Obviously, want to thank the Jets and all of our sponsors, our friends and partners at CoolBet, Rolly's Transfer, St. Vital Dental Center, Canadian Club and Uptown Alley, Princess Auto, the gang at Chud's Power Sports, Manitoba Battery. We will get into the latest edition of the Clean Line lines for Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical. Boston Pizza, Royal Sports, Little Brown Jug. We'll get to a Why Not question of the day, of course, and fan feedback from fansfirst.ca. Let's get her going. Michael Remis, what's going on?
I'm ready. Big night in the NHL, number of games. We did have some good games last night, all in the 6 p.m. time, but the Jets back at home. Feels like it's been a while since we've been here, and first game back from a road trip. We'll see how they fare, but taking on Columbus and a bit of a favorable schedule with Columbus at home last night to take on Montreal, and that was the prime Monday night hockey game. So I'm looking forward to seeing the Blue Jackets and the Jets at home with full roster for the first time in a while. Everyone's back.
Yeah, everyone available right now. So we will definitely dive into all of that and be interesting. Just in a couple seconds, we'll get into the lines for Clean Line and see how things are looking with everybody back. And this is really the first time. Now, one caveat: this wouldn't be like a playoff lineup because Eric Comrie's getting the start. Now, Eric Comrie has played very well this year. It seemed, now Ken thought that the plan was originally Comrie on Saturday. I always love my prediction offs with Ken based on the goaltending. I did get him this past week because Hellebuck did play those final 3 games. And it may have been because they really needed that final one and wanted to make sure that they put their best foot forward to get that final win. But it does seem like this is a good spot for Comrie to be in. Although the way that he's played so far this season, I think that they'll have confidence playing him against most teams. Jet Greaves, we'll find out more about him when Bob joins us. But he was the goaltender of record last night. So the guy that's been the starter more often than not for the Jackets over the last 5 years, Elvis Merzlikins, will get the call tonight for Columbus, while Eric Comrie starts for the Winnipeg Jets. Just before we kind of dive in and hear from the Jets, Remo, nice win for Columbus, as I mentioned last night. A big one for them as they are right there in the middle of an insane cluster of teams. First wild card to last place, 4 points remain separating all of these teams. Montreal gets the point in OT, so they're 1 point ahead of everybody else. Tied with Detroit, in fact, for that spot in the Atlantic. Like when you look at the standings, it's just wild. Like the Atlantic Division, Boston, Detroit, and Montreal, all teams, Boston and Detroit, were both big time plus money, unlikely to make the playoffs. The Habs were basically a pick 'em. And then you look at all the teams that are normally there at the top of the Atlantic. The Panthers, the Lightning, the Maple Leafs, all right down at the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. But again, with all these overtime games and everybody getting all the points, regardless of whether you're winning or losing, it's as close and stacked up as I've ever seen before. And I guess the commissioner loves that because everyone feels like they've got a shot right now. I heard Buffalo in the post game last night going, it's time for the Sabres just to put a few wins together and they'll be right in the playoffs. And the fact of the matter is that's sort of true, although they do have to pass 8 teams with 4 points to get into that wild card spot. But a team like Columbus that we'll be seeing tonight, pretty nice start. They're 5-3-2 in their last 10. Got a win last night. Basically the definition of a mid team. 60 goals for, 60 goals against, and on account of some shootout wins, they're 3 games to the good when it comes to NHL 500 heading into tonight.
How many people, hands up, knew that their leading scorer, Kirill Marchenko,
heater
with 22 points in 19 games? Adam Fantilli, I don't want to call it a breakout like we've seen, from some of the other players around the league who are high picks like Carlson and Macklin Celebrini, but he's fourth on the team in points, 13 points in 19 games. And you know that Zach Werenski, he's their all-star. He's Josh Morrissey of the Blue Jackets, the number one guy. He'll be on Team USA. So the Blue Jackets, they have a solid lineup, Huss. And as you said, kind of mid with the 60 goals for, 60 goals against, right in there in the wild card. And it is amazing how tightly packed it is in that wild card. Everyone's going to overtime every night with these 3-point games. You did see Buffalo, as you mentioned, win in regulation over Edmonton. Florida got the big win yesterday. We'll see a number of these teams tonight. So they're trying to keep pace. And for the Jets, they want to start off this homestand right. It wasn't the best road trip for them, only getting 2 wins. Could have been 3 had they have hung on in Seattle. But I think for the Jets, they know that, hey, their lineup is back together. They're having some time to gel, having time to get up to speed. And I think we underrated Morgan Barron, what he meant to this team when he was out. They lost the speed. The penalty kill suffered as well. And he's going to be out there back on the fourth line with Tanner Pearson and Gus Nyquist. Yeah,
indeed. And, we'll hear from Barron in a minute. I'm with you. I think this return of Morgan Barron is a big one. And this dates back to the trade deadline last year, moving him to center. He has been so good, and the numbers of that fourth line, offensively, shot share, possession, the confidence of Arniel to put them out in tight spots in the final minutes of periods and games that you don't normally see fourth lines get time. Like that was the case, and that was really missing over the course of the road trip. So great news to get Morgan Barron back tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. In fact, just before we look at the lines for Clean Line, why don't we hear from Morgan Barron? We'll come back to Arniel in a second, Remo, but let's go to number 8. Barron had that great start to the season. Tough not to be out there with his teammates during this road trip, but he's back, and he was just asked on his excitement level to finally put the game jersey on tonight in front of the home fans.
Yeah, I think it's always, you get a little bit impatient there at the end, but I was just happy to be on the road with the guys. I was wondering if they were going to bring me, so fun to be a part of it and be around. Obviously a little bit of a tough trip for us, but I felt like we kind of came around there a little bit at the end, so excited to be back with the guys in the lineup tonight.
Sometimes when an injury occurs, it is not obvious, but that hit that you took from Connor Dewar in the Pittsburgh game, you looked uncomfortable. Did you know something was amiss right after the hit, or was it the next morning when you woke up?
No, I knew right away. I think it was my last shift of the game. I don't know if it was Dewar. I thought it was a Chari, to be honest with you.
Okay.
But just kind of one of those plays that just a weird hit, and it's nothing too crazy, but sometimes that's how our game is. Obviously, it happens pretty quick out there. So no, I knew pretty much right away.
All right, so there you go. And listen, with the addition of Barron and Cole Koepke being able to go, although it looks like he's going to be the 13th forward tonight, this team has everybody at their disposal. And it looks like this is going to be the lineup moving forward. Although I do think that we'll probably see Pearson and Koepke potentially switch at some point. But bottom line for Morgan Barron, he's back, and he talked about having the team healthy again going into 3 big games at home.
I think we've obviously had lots of guys kind of coming in and out, and obviously a few guys there who didn't even start the season and have worked their way back in. So I think as everyone gets more comfortable, you're obviously playing with different guys, but you want to be able to settle in at least a little bit and just kind of be able to read off each other a little bit. And I think, especially the offensive side of our game, I think we all know what we have to clean up defensively, but I think that'll go a long way kind of in the offensive zone, just kind of knowing where each other are.
All right. Now, listen, I know there's all these narratives about teams coming back from a long road trip in that first game at home. That cannot be an issue tonight for the Winnipeg Jets. I don't think they were pleased with the results on the road trip. And listen, it started not very well. And if your trip, homestand or road trip doesn't start very well, you're playing catch up. You don't want that to be the case. And let's face it, they're playing against a team that played last night in Columbus, went to overtime, traveled overnight. But Barron was asked just about, kicking this thing off tonight. And that old adage about the difficulty of ramping it up the first game back at home after a long road trip?
I think for us it's another game, and that may be true. I'm not sure what maybe the numbers say about it, but we try to kind of approach every game without putting aside, I guess, the excuses. Whether you're on the back end of a long road trip like we were there the last few games, or coming home. Again, with the schedule, it always seems like there's a reason or an excuse to be tired or an excuse to come out flat, but. Ultimately, the teams that are going to kind of up to the top of the standings are going to be the teams that kind of put that aside. So we'll try to do that.
That is what I do like about the identity of this team, and this goes back to Rick Bowness. It was always a pet peeve of mine that Maurice would always be talking about the time zones that they have to play for. I mean, we had some fun with it on it, but again, I mean, everyone deals with it. You just have to be ready to go, and I think with the situation the Jets find themselves in right now, right in the middle of an absolute dogfight just to be on the right side of the playoff line, they can't allow any of that to come in. And listen, there are no excuses with injuries, anything like that. They had a full practice yesterday. They had a day off the day before. They should be ready to go. And if any team is really up against it, it would be the Columbus Blue Jackets, considering the travel last night. Now, just here's one more from Barron, just talking about if he'll have an easier time coming back into the lineup, with practice yesterday, and of course the fact that he had that great start to the season.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I mean, that's really difficult what those guys have done, right? Like, it's almost hard to appreciate, I think, from the outside, but just not being in a game for that extended period of time, over the whole summer. And then, we were talking about it the other day during the game with some of the other guys who weren't playing, like the fact that when we started in the preseason, you kind of have this ramping up period and everyone around you is also going through the same thing versus those guys kind of came in and everyone else is going full speed and is kind of already ramped up. So it's been great to see. I think they've all been great since they've come back in, but obviously they'll continue to build, I think, and get more comfortable. So hopefully my curve is a little bit quicker.
So the Bear is back, and Remo, let's fire up the lines for our friends at Clean Line Plumbing, Heating, and Electrical, your local leader for over 40 years in the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets, captain approved. The Clean Line lines look like this: Connor, Scheifele, and Velarde, Nemetsnikov, Taves, and Perfetti, Niederreiter, Lowry, and Iafallo. Those lines intact from the end of the road trip. And now with Morgan Barron back in, Parker Ford is out, and Gustav Nyquist and Tanner Pearson on the wings. The defense will look as it was against Calgary. Morrissey DeMello, Sandberg Pionk, and Logan Stanley and Luke Shen on the third pairing. And as we mentioned, Eric Comrie getting the start tonight over Connor Hellebuck. I will say this. I mean, this is, sort of the lineup, Remo, that we've been waiting to see. I was a little surprised that Cole Koepke is out tonight. But again, I guess Pearson scored, and in the last game, Nyquist obviously just returned from injury. I think we're going to see Cole Koepke, though, in the lineup sooner or later. Like, I still sort of feel, based on what we saw when he was in the lineup at the start of the year, that he's one of the Jets' top 12. But listen, there's a lot of competition for spots last night, and that's why we're going to see the young guys get some time with the Manitoba Moose coming up when they resume their schedule on the weekend.
Yeah, we were wondering what was going to happen with the Moose. It happened. They made the transactions right after the show. Lambert, Chibrikov, Ford. I mean, an entire line being sent down to the Manitoba Moose, who are on a bit of a hot streak here, and they'll be at home this weekend. Starting on Thursday, so a huge boost to them. And for the Winnipeg Jets, I would agree, Huss. I think you saw Cole Koepke's speed, and that's an element that maybe that's missing right now on that fourth line. You kind of got the fast guy, in Barron in between the two veteran guys. So, Koepke, maybe if he scores on that play instead of getting injured in San Jose, Huss, we're talking differently, but he got hurt, had to miss some time. And look, he'll be eased in. We might see a rotation, but Pearson did get the goal. I think Gus Nyquist is a guy who you want to see get settled in and start getting putting some points up. So we'll keep an eye there. But I would agree, Cole Koepke, he certainly earned another look, and maybe it's just a case of, hey, let's not get so many guys who've been out back in at the same time.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Okay, listen, we're going to hear from Scott Arniel in just a minute, but there are lines for our friends over at Clean Line. And we've got Bob coming on to get the latest on the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we do that, hey, listen, Great Cup. Now we move on into holiday season and into winter, and it is a great time to get down to see our friends at Uptown Alley, Winnipeg's premier fun and entertainment spot for kids of all ages. We've got 5-pin bowling, 10-pin bowling, laser tag, an amazing arcade, great games with tons of awesome prizes you can leave with. And listen, awesome spot for birthday parties for kids, teens, and adults. And of course, amazing group and corporate events where you can pick your activities, pick your meal, pick your add-ons, and then the event staff will take care of everything else. But with the holidays coming up and winter just about here, give the gift of fun this holiday season. Uptown Alley has gift cards available, which you can pick up online or at Uptown Alley. And don't forget, every day after 9 p.m., the Bowl and Play special, 90 minutes of bowling and a $10 arcade card for $20.49 for 5-pin and $22.49 for 10-pin, 7 days a week. Pop by and see him, 1301 St. Matthews Avenue, and online, uptownalley.ca. Book a lane, give him a holler, 488-0000. With the new year just around the corner, many of you might be planning on a move, folks. If you are planning on moving, take as much of the stress out of it as possible with the gang at Roley's Transfer. Great partners of ours for years, and the leaders in the business and most trusted name in moving for over 60 years in Manitoba. Family owned and operated. Head on over to their website at roleys.com. Click on request an estimate. Use the promo code WST for a special discount on moving services and moving supplies. And let them know when and where you're moving and what needs to be moved. And the friendly staff at Roley's will get back to you quickly with a great quote and get you locked in for the white glove treatment and service that Roley's has been famous for now into their 7th decade. For all your moving needs, make it Roley's Transfer. Find out more, request an estimate today over at roleys.com. I'll tell you what, there was a ton of smiles back during Grey Cup week for fans from across the country, certainly for everyone involved in putting the event on. And when we're thinking about smiles 365 days a year, you got to lean on Dr. Terry and his wonderful staff at the St. Vital Dental Center to keep that smile looking great. Of course, St. Vital Dental Center has been serving generations of Winnipeggers and Manitobans in the St. Vital area. They've now got a beautiful new facility at 167 St. Anne's Road with state-of-the-art equipment and free, convenient parking right behind the building, and the experts that have been doing it for decades. If you're looking for a great long-term home for you and your family, they'll handle clients and customers from 6 months to 99 plus with a full array of dental services, from cleanings and checkups to things like dental implants. One-stop shop. They can do it all for all your dental needs. Go to stvitaldental.ca for more information. Make an appointment. Pop in, say hi to Dr. Terry and the gang, and tell them that your boys at Winnipeg Sports Talk sent you. And hey, big thanks to James and the Canadian club team. They were everywhere over the course of Grey Cup. Obviously, the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Canadian club has been, and they were front and center supporting everything that happened over the course of Grey Cup week. Got a chance to sit at the game with James and Greg and Rob. Had just an awesome time and enjoyed a CC and ginger ale in a can at the game. Now, speaking of the holiday season, for a limited time only, get your hands on the cranberry and ginger ale Canadian Club product, both in the 4-packing cans and in 473 milliliter cans. Those will be available at your local vendors as well. Stock up on those. It'll be a great option for some holiday gatherings and partying for people that maybe want something a little different than beer. And of course, the original Canadian Club, the iconic Canadian whiskey, also available right now while supplies last at your local Manitoba liquor marts, just in time for holiday gift giving in the special limited edition Blue Bomber bottle with the beautiful Princess Auto Stadium, the Bomber helmet, and of course Canadian Club, which is the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Grab it today along with the Cranberry Ginger Ale with Canadian Club at your local Manitoba liquor marts. Huge thanks to Canadian Club for their support of Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, before Bob jumps on with us, let's hear a little bit from head coach Scott Arniel heading into tonight's game. Here's Arnie would ask, could we see a letdown game for the first game back after the road trip? Here's what the coach had to say to that.
Yeah, they can be if you have, you have great success. And this one was a different one because it was 13 days. It was just a long trip, and everybody's so excited to get back here. So, but at the end of the day, we have to take advantage of the schedule. The schedule was Columbus playing at home last night and having to fly in here. So, it's making sure that we're ready to go no matter how we got here. We had a day, we got a chance to practice yesterday. We need to put our best foot forward tonight.
Yeah, Reem, listen, this team has been pretty good and very consistent over the last couple of years. The road trip wasn't great. They were off of it. But when it comes down to just being ready to go tonight and coming out with a professional effort and operation, there can't be any excuses based on this road trip. And I thought Scott Arniel nailed that. You're talking about us. We had a day off. We had a day of practice yesterday. We have to be ready to go. It's the Blue Jackets that are in the real jam. And, from a Jets perspective on home ice, they need to take advantage of that, not count on that coming back from the road trip.
Yeah, mini 3-game homestand here. Tuesday, you have 2 days off, and then Friday against Carolina and Sunday afternoon before heading out for a busy one on the road next week. And you're right, the Jets, look, they played Calgary Saturday. I imagine came home right after. Day off Sunday, practice Monday. They should be good. They should be rested. It's not like they got back, last night late after a game, Sunday or something, and then had a day off. There's no excuses here. Columbus is a team, they were out of the playoffs last year. The Jets were so good at home last season. You'd like to keep that going. So they know what the issues have been with this team. Barron, getting him back will be a huge help. I'm looking forward to seeing how they come out tonight.
Let's see here. Phyllis, just quickly in chat, I got the Canadian Club Cranberry and Ginger Ale at the local liquor mart today. Only 2 cans left, so I got them for Christmas cheer. Nicely done. I'm sure there'll be more coming in time for the holidays, Phyllis, but I'm glad you're able to pick that up. Back to Arniel. This is the first time all the centers have been good to go. Of course, Adam Lowry came back, but Morgan Barron was out. Got their full lineup of centers, which is something I think the Jets are counting on will be a big advantage for them going through the rest of the season and hopefully into the playoffs. Here's Arnie on having all the centers healthy for the first time.
Excited for it. It's like you mentioned, we looked at it in the summertime. We thought maybe this would be the direction we were going once Adam got healthy. Certainly lots of things have happened since then, a lot of different injuries. But it's nice to finally see that group. We're one yellow jersey right now away from having our whole group back here. So, knock on wood, we get through tonight. But at the end of the day, it's good to see that middle of the ice. We felt that having those 4 guys gave us strength through there, and we get it tested tonight.
Yeah, I should mention with the Arnie knocking on wood, we've been so focusing on the forwards. Hayden Fleury, still the one guy not cleared for contact and practice, and he and Colin Miller will be in the press box tonight with Stanley and Shen getting the start. Now, Cole Koepke, I kind of mentioned this off the top. I would have, for me, based on what we've seen so far this year, I've really liked his game, and I think he's going to be a regular on that 4th line, but he is good to go if need be. Arnie was asked about Koepke being the odd man out tonight in the lineup and being a healthy scratch.
Yeah, obviously he's not a guy that's going to sit. And then we have the 1 extra forward kind of by design, the 2 extra D. So, he's been good. He was good for us early. Unfortunately, he got banged up, but just right now for this lineup tonight, that's how we're going. And again, once we take off again, once after this sort of couple of games here at home, again, it gets heavy. So we're going to need everybody.
All right, now Cole Koepke coming up. Of course, Morgan Barron is back in the lineup tonight. And he had that great start to the season and was out for the road trip, and then Adam Lowry's back. So the centers are back, Barron back in the middle. Arnie was just asked about, the return of Barron to the lineup, what he brings and what he's really liked about his game so far this year.
He was really good, and I think that him and Koepke worked well together. I think the thing about him, he was good face-offs on the right side. He did a good job with that. He's taken on more of a role, and certainly with Lau not being there early on in the year, we've given him the opportunity, and then it's his to go out and grasp. And I think he did a good job. He's spending time with Dino and watching his shifts, watching how he's doing it, and learning each and every time. And that's a big part of it. And having him back, I think, will help us.
All right, good stuff with Arnie. We've got a little bit more from him a little later on, but let's talk a little bit more about the visitors tonight. You want to talk about a quick turnaround. Going the distance with the Habs last night, getting a big win, putting them in a playoff spot as we drop the puck tonight, but right in the middle of just an absolutely crazy pack of teams in the East. Always a pleasure to welcome in the play-by-play announcer for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Bob McElligott, to Winnipeg Sports Talk. Bob, welcome back to the Peg. How are you?
I always think that Scott Arniel should be put to the side for me, just for the record.
No doubt.
I say that with great respect and admiration for Scott Arniel as well, as a buddy who used to coach here, of course.
I know Scott has been. Just quickly on that. It was a real tough situation that he kind of went into Columbus, and obviously it didn't go well. Very respected guy, did a hell of a job last year. Must be nice, from your perspective, to see him get that second chance and have it go as well as it has so far with the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, it really is. And, I think it's great that even though it didn't work out here, he stayed in the league. He was an assistant coach. He was in Washington for that time. And I talked to him after he got the job here at the draft in Vegas. And he was, obviously, he was so happy. And I said to him, I would imagine you will do this one different than you did the first go around in Columbus. And he said, I learned so much from that experience. And the Jets are benefiting from it. There's no question about that. So, he had great roots here. I knew him back when he was a head coach of the Manitoba Moose in the American Hockey League. It's great that he's able to come back here. But as you said, even better that he is having success here. And I just hope he doesn't have it tonight. Simple as that.
Well, listen, the Jets need this one, considering kind of an underwhelming road trip after a good start. But just to Arniel, I'm interested in what you remember about his time in Columbus, because we talked to him on the show, obviously afterwards, and then when he took over the job here, and I always remember this line that he said. You go into your time as an NHL coach, you've been working on it, you get this opportunity, and you think you have all the answers. And you finish up that first year and you realize you didn't even know all the questions.
Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly. When he left the Manitoba Moose, he had a good team, and it was a veteran team, a competitive team every year that Vancouver put here. And then he gets to come to the National Hockey League. And yeah, I think that's exactly what happened to him. He got with a team that was kind of in flux, and the team really didn't know who it was, to be completely honest with you. I don't think. They had great talent. They had guys like Derek Brassard and Mark Mathot, and guys that had come up through the system and were high draft picks, and they were looking for them to go to the next level. So in that regard, it would have been similar to the American Hockey League. But then you get those veterans mixed in there, and it's tough for coaches that just come in to earn that respect of the veteran players. And it's a lot easier to do when you're winning, right? It's easier to sell when you're winning. I thought Scott had a great coaching staff as far as good people. I don't know that there was a ton of I don't know if there was enough experience there on the staff overall, and that probably didn't help him out much, especially in that first year. Todd Richards came in the second year and then ironically ended up replacing him. But I think it's, looking back on it now, it's very easy to say. It was a process that Scott had to go through just to learn how to coach in the National Hockey League. And then he takes that experience, he goes on, he's an assistant coach, sees how others do it, and now he's able to come back here as a much more rounded coach and a guy that is much, much more ready for the job than he was back then.
Tell us about the guy that's behind the bench right now. We know him well, Dean Evanson. Famously, the minute I think of Dean Evanson, I think of he and Rick Bowness, wanting to kill each other in between the benches in one of those heated Wild Jets games back when they were both on it. Fill us in on his time in Columbus right now and what he's trying to build with this young team.
Well, Dean, he came into a situation last year that I think when he got the job in July, I really thought it was a perfect situation for him. And then the team went through the tragedy of losing Johnny Gaudreau just before training camp started, and that kind of turned it completely upside down and changed it into something else. But Dean handled that so well and helped the team to handle that so well and take a tragedy and turn it into a rallying point and get this team within 2 points of a playoff spot in the Eastern Conference last year. So Dean has done a good job. I mean, his motto is nothing is given, it's all earned. He makes the players earn it. Sometimes you see scratches on a night-to-night basis and you head scratch and you're like, why would you take that guy out of the lineup? But when you go by that mantra and think about how the guy played either the last game or maybe the last few games, and you can see where he's going to take them out and he's going to hold them accountable and he's going to make them earn everything they get. So he's done a very nice job since he's been here. They tweaked the team a little bit from last year to this year, made some offseason acquisitions to try to make it a little bit stronger, because not making the postseason this year will be completely unacceptable for this franchise.
Yeah, the stakes are seemingly high. I mean, it's time for the Blue Jackets to be in that mix. They got some really exciting young players that we'll talk about in a minute. But Bob, just your thoughts on the East right now. Like, listen, I hammer this all the time. I think that, maybe if I could make one change in the National Hockey League, it would be every game would be worth 3 points. And if you win in regulation, you're getting those 3 points. Otherwise, everyone just seems, especially in these interconference games, more than happy to just take it to overtime and hopefully you get that extra point. And what that's done is create literally no separation between anybody in the East right now. The Blue Jackets are in a playoff spot at 22 points, and there's only 4 points from last place, to Buffalo and Toronto, to the teams that are in right now. I mean, I've never seen it this close before, ever, and we're approaching the quarter mark of the regular season and Thanksgiving next week.
First of all, I'm going to tell you, I agree with your points argument. Like, to me, it's either this. Sometimes you talk about it, 3 points. Well, now that's all of a sudden going to change the record books and the number of points that you can earn in the season, all this stuff. Okay, well then how about do this one? If you lose regulation, overtime, shootout, you get 0. You want to do that? Nobody's comfortable with doing that either.
No.
But I agree. There needs to be some kind of an adjustment there because of what you just talked about. I mean, it's ridiculous what's going on in the East right now. And, who knows if it changes. I would assume that some teams will get hot and some teams will cool off as it goes along. But look, the league wants parity. They've got their parity right now. Everybody's in it. Of course, that American Thanksgiving thing, I'll be honest with you. The year that St. Louis was dead last into December, and then they went on and won it. To me, the American Thanksgiving, it's a nice quarter pole marker and all that stuff, but it doesn't mean, I don't think it means what it used to mean.
Think of the Oilers the last 2 years.
Yeah, great point. So, it's a thing that we still talk about. I don't think it's nearly as viable as it used to be, but say you continue like this, and we saw this last year, really, when it comes to the trade deadline. There's so many teams that feel like they're still in it, that maybe they're hanging on and not making a move, or there's a team that really needs a move to be made and they can't find one because of all those teams that think that they're still in it. So that's where it really has I think a major effect. But it's crazy right now when you look at the standings, as you said, from top to bottom, everybody's right there.
I think that's a great point you make about the deadline, Bob. I mean, if this is a year that, there is less separation. Hell, Calgary right now is the worst team in the National Hockey League. They didn't sell at the deadline last year because they were right there. And listen, they overachieved for sure. They were a really fun, hardworking team, and they sort of earned that opportunity to give themselves a chance to go in. For the franchise, I don't think it ended up being beneficial to them. I mean, they're going to get to these things and trade players with less term left on their contract, probably for less of a return. But your point about teams being uneasy about making moves if they're 2 or 3 points out, even if there's 6 teams between them, because that is the way it looks to the fans. But at the same time, when you actually do the math and you realize all these other teams are playing games, everyone else is getting points, like the rear view mirror, the things are closer than they appear. It's actually the other way around once you have that separation of a bunch of teams in the middle. But at least right now, everyone's feeling like they've got a chance. Give us the vibe around Columbus and the fan base that's so hungry to get back to the playoffs right now with the team that seems to be sort of coming into their own. And as we've seen over the last couple of weeks with wins over Edmonton, probably should have been 2, to be honest, if it wasn't for McDavid just taking over that game, and a big win last night against a team they were chasing in the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, some of the results are coming. I mean, is there a feeling of positivity and some forward momentum under Evason this season?
Yeah, there is. But before I get to that, I want to go back to the trade thing we were talking about, because here's a case in point. There's a player on this team in Yegor Chinakhov who requested a trade this summer, and he's still here. And part of the reason for that is Don Waddell said, I'm not giving this guy away. I want to make a hockey trade. And he can't make a hockey trade in October or November. And now we're talking about March, right? So what are you going to do? If it stays like this, what are you going to be able to do when it gets to that point? So I think that's already an early indicator of what you're looking at in the NHL. But to answer your question about this team, the fan base is hungry. I mean, there was that span of 6 years when John Tortorella was the head coach here, and you had that core that had Nick Foligno and Cam Atkinson, Seth Jones, and David Savard, and that team finally got not just into the playoffs, but won a playoff round for the first time in franchise history, and did it in a big way that year when they swept the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, that's been 6 years ago. And we've seen all of those players leave and go somewhere else. Heck, some of them are now retired. And it's time for this next group to make that step and get into it. The Adam Fantillis, Kent Johnsons, Kirill Marchenko's. It's time for Zach Werenski to lead a team into the playoffs. And that's the direction they're going. And, you know, people in Columbus are extremely excited about it, because there were years where, you know, you're finishing. Look, when you're drafting 3rd overall and you're in the lottery and have a chance to draft first, quite frankly, it means you stunk. You stunk the last year, so you want to get better. And now you get those pieces, and you're supposed to get better. I think the best thing is they didn't do a complete tear down with this thing, but now it is bouncing back. It's in the right direction. But like I said, you know, last year they could have finished dead last. Nobody would have said boo about it. After what happened with Johnny Gaudreau, everybody would have felt sorry for the Blue Jackets. As it turned out, most of the league was rooting for the Blue Jackets to get in as an underdog team. But now it's completely changed. Now there are expectations to get in. You had a lot of guys that had career years last year who are kind of struggling to repeat that at this point in time. And we're only, you know, a couple of months in, which I get, but I think they're pushing. I think they're putting pressure on themselves to do that, and that's not necessarily a great thing. But they're winning games, and when they're not winning here in the last 5, they're picking up points along the way. You mentioned that Edmonton game; they blew that one in the 3rd period, but got a point out of it. The Montreal game last night, they had a 2-goal lead in the 3rd period, tried to protect the lead, blew the lead, and got the 2nd point in a win. So what they learned last year is every point is valuable. So even when they're not winning games, if they're getting a point, they can live with themselves right now under that scenario.
You know, listen, we don't get a chance to see the Blue Jackets enough. I mean, if you don't have the center ice package, I mean, this is not a team that's on national television. We're all in the West. We see them once at home and once on the road. But from what I've seen over the last couple of years, but especially, you know, in the last month, it seems like Kirill Marchenko is turning into, you know, a real star player. I believe he's got the longest, after McDavid got shut out last night, the longest point streak right now in the league in 12 games in a row. I was going through the game logs. I think he's only been held off the score sheet twice this season. And then you got Voronkov, another young Russian. You know, these guys are still on, you know, early contracts. They've got a couple years left, and they are still RFAs. Tell us about the, you know, the core, the guys that are carrying the weight scoring wise at the top of the league that most hockey fans, I think, haven't had a chance to see very much of.
Well, it's a good point that you make, because last week when we were out in Calgary and Edmonton and Vancouver, somebody said to me, man, you've got to see that Kirill Marchenko play in person to realize what a gifted player that he is. And you're right. When you only see him one time a year, you don't realize it. I get the luxury of watching him every day, and I've watched him get better year in and year out. And he's got a great chemistry with Dmitry Voronkov. They're playing on the same line. They're two different players. I mean, Marchenko is a very highly skilled player who can shoot and score. And Voronkov is a big body who has really good hands in and around the net. And that's why they complement each other so well. But I think what Marchenko has done, he plays a much more complete game now. As Dean Evanson says, we've told him, if you don't have the puck, go get it. And he is. I mean, he's like a dog on a bone on many nights, just reaching in and lifting sticks and stealing pucks away, both in the offense and the defensive zone. This guy comes to work every day. I'm going to be honest with you. In all the years he's been here, and I'm honestly thinking about this right now, I don't know if I've ever walked away from a game and said, that guy didn't work very hard tonight. He does. He works extremely hard, and it pays off more times than not. And like I said, he and Voronkov are they've got great chemistry. Sometimes I think they pass it between each other too many times, and it's like, well, one of you shoot the puck for crying out loud, and I know which one I want to shoot it, and that would be Marchenko. But they started this year with Sean Monahan in between them. Monahan has gotten off to a slow start. They moved Adam Fantilli up there about a week ago to play with those two guys. He played a lot with them last year when Monahan was out with injury. So ever since Fantilli's gone back there, his game has risen to another level. No surprise. So that trio definitely is leading this team, and they're dangerous every time they're on the ice.
A team that has been picking relatively high in the draft, and especially, I mean, listen, Winnipeg is very similar. I mean, these are teams that sort of draft and develop their own players and try and build from within. But there is a really interesting veteran core. Former Jet Sean Monahan, and, we know how excited he was to play with Johnny and everything that happened. I mean, it's just absolute tragedy. He seems to still have it. You've added Charlie Coyle. And then there's Matthew Olivier, who, I mean, listen, that might have been the biggest coup of the Blue Jackets last year, getting him to sign a long-term deal to stick around, because there's very few Matthew Oliviers out there, a guy that can actually contribute in many different ways and can scare the living hell out of most of the players on the other team right now. Like, we'll focus in on the younger players, but tell us about Olivier, like sort of the veteran conscience of this team and how important they've been to bringing up the young players and making this team competitive every night.
I'll tell you what, you have to give credit to the former general manager here, Jarmo Kekalainen, when he made that deal with Nashville, sending a 4th-round pick to the Predators to get Matthew Olivier, because you look at what he has developed into for this team. And as you said, in the league, I mean, nobody wants to fight him.
No.
And last week in Edmonton, I felt bad for Trent Frederick, because, Frederick was getting a lot of grief about not providing enough toughness. And then he gets out there on the first shift, and who's out on the other side is Olivier. So he's got to fight him. And well, that didn't go so well for him. But, Matthew's been great. I mean, he had 18 goals last year. He earned the contract that he got, 6-year contract, and he's going to be here for a long time. His family likes it in Columbus. He was happy to stay there, and he's glad that they took care of him financially, and that everything was able to work out. His teammates love him. And how can you not love a guy that is going to create space for you each and every time that he's out on the ice? He's tough. There's always that threat. Teams are always, the defensemen, when they go back to get pucks, they're looking over their shoulder if he's out there, because they don't know if they're going to get hit by him or not. So that provides an element that some teams just, quite frankly, don't have. Charlie Coyle coming in the trade from Colorado on draft day, that was a great trade. He's a right-handed centerman. He wins faceoffs a lot. He struggled in the dot last night against Nick Suzuki, but he, for the most part, he's their go-to guy when you have a must-win faceoff, and he's done a really good job at it. And they felt that they need to improve in that department from last year, and they did that with Charlie Coyle. And, Boone Jenner's out with injury right now, and Erica Branson is out with an injury, but those two guys are bona fide leaders and are solid in their game when they're healthy and when they're playing. And as I said earlier, Monahan has had a slow start, but he had a terrific year last year in his first year as a Blue Jacket, and I think he will. I think he'll be fine again. He's just looking to find it. They're trying to find him some line mates where he can get clicking right now. But when he does, he'll be an important part of it, as he was last year. I have no doubt about that.
Bob McElligott's the play-by-play voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Bob, I would imagine that it'll be a pretty quiet night in Dominion City, Manitoba tonight because everyone's making the trip into the city, and I think that Eastman hockey to see Denton Matejchuk, a high draft pick. He's now a regular in the National Hockey League. How's the young Manitoban faring, and what's his role in this Blue Jacket squad?
I'll tell you what, this role is whatever they give him. And he will do it, and he will do it to the best of his ability, and that is upper echelon on most nights. I'll tell you that. This kid, first of all, he's a great person. He is a no maintenance guy. He seems like he's not very many highs and certainly not any lows. He is an even-keeled guy that goes out and he does his job. They started him on the third pair. They moved him up to play with Zach Werenski for a while. Right now they have him on the second pair with Damon Severson. But whatever they've asked him to do, Denton has just gone out there and he has done it. I feel terrible for him because anybody watching your show that saw the Connor McDavid goal last week where poor Denton got his ankles broken on McDavid's move and then he turned around and whipped the backhander into the net. That doggone highlight's going to live forever and he's always going to be a part of it. But you know what? He doesn't care. He learned from it. He played against them 3 nights later and there were 0 incidents. He took care of them and didn't have a play like that happen against him again. He is just he's a young kid, but he's a true pro in the way that he approaches everything. I know he's excited to play here tonight. He told us this morning he actually came to a playoff game last year just to be in the crowd and experience the Stanley Cup playoffs here. So, and he used to come when he was a kid and watch Lemieux and watch Datsuk. And so this will be a special night for him. But he is a special player, and he's a really big part of what happens on the blue line for this team.
You mentioned that McDavid goal last year. And listen, if you're an NHL defenseman, it's almost a rite of passage to get burned. I mean, McDavid, that will be probably a top 5 goal of the entire year. And at a certain point, you can do everything you've been taught. You think you play it, and a guy that's probably better than anybody else in the game can sometimes do that. But it is, and I mean, especially, and it's part of being and learning the grind of being a regular and important defenseman, playing in the top 4 for 82 games. You got to get back on your horse and get right back to it. And to your point, the fact that they played them again like 4 or 5 days later and handled them the way they did speaks well for the young man, but also for the Blue Jackets as a team. I watched that game, really impressed with Columbus in that, they had their opportunity on the road to do it, and they took care of it convincingly when they got back to Seabus.
Yeah, they certainly did. And, what Denton did, too, with that play is he exonerated Jack Johnson because Jack Johnson was the last Blue Jackets defenseman to get completely embarrassed on a play by Connor McDavid. And actually, Jack was back here last year, and he and Denton were teammates. So, but it's, like you said, the job is don't worry about what happened on the last shift, let alone the last day. Just go out there and do your job. And I think that's really what Denton is very, very good about. Look, he's not the biggest guy, but he doesn't care. He takes a hit. He gives a hit. He moves the puck very well. He can shoot the puck well. That's one part of his game that we're now starting to see in the National Hockey League a little bit more. I know in junior he was very good and offensively minded. Of course, when you're playing with Zach Werenski on a pair, you probably let Zach do the shooting and you're covering up and trying to defend. But he is shooting the puck more and he's got a very good shot. And I think the sky's the limit for this kid, to be completely honest with you.
Hey, Bob, thanks so much for jumping on with us. Just on the way out, I haven't mentioned Don Waddell, obviously a longtime NHL veteran, general manager. He's the steward of this team moving forward. What's he looking for? If there's going to be a move with this team made, I mean, what is the goal for him to improve this club and where might he be looking?
He wanted the top 6 forward in the summer. He didn't get one. I mentioned the Chinikov situation where he requested a trade. Look, here's the thing. If Yegor Chinikov comes in and plays his game on a nightly basis, he is the top 6 forward that you're looking for. But he has not been able to stay in the lineup. He has been on the 4th line. He has been out. He's out of the lineup tonight. They're healthy scratching him again tonight because they don't feel like he's competing enough. So if he's not going to be that guy, that's what he's still looking for when I'm talking about Don Waddell. He's still looking for a scorer and a top 6 guy. We talked about all the parity in the league. Good luck getting somebody to part with somebody like that. I don't know. Maybe if somebody has a player that they feel needs a change of scenery and they want a Chinikov in exchange for that, maybe something like that happens. But I think that's where Don is looking to improve. I think the defense is pretty well set here. It'll be better when Goodbranson comes back from his injury because it's lacking a little bit of size right now on the back end. But if he could get a top six guy that can score some goals, every general manager is saying the same thing, right? Yeah, I'd take that guy. But I think that's where he would be looking to make some tweaks if he can.
Bob, really appreciate your time today. I know it was a quick turnaround from that call last night. We'll look forward to the game tonight. And I think a lot of people are interested to see what this 2025-26 Blue Jackets team looks like. And outside of tonight, we'll be pulling for good fortunes and get some new blood back in the playoffs in the East. You be well. Have a great call. And thanks again for jumping on with us today. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the invite. I appreciate it too. And always great to be on with you. And we'll talk again soon.
Thanks so much, Bob. There it is. Bob McElligott, play-by-play voice of the Columbus Blue Jackets as we get ready for a 7 p.m. puck drop tonight down at Canada Life Center. More on this game tonight. Brandon Rewucki is going to join us in just a minute. Do want to thank our friends at Princess Auto for their great support of Winnipeg Sports Talk and also everything that they do in this community. I mean, Princess Auto was front and center, obviously the namesake of the building that hosted the 2025 Grey Cup, but it was very clear to see how much they were supporting everything that was happening with the Grey Cup Festival. And, as a big company that's coast to coast, but founded and headquartered right here in Winnipeg, speaks really well to their commitment to making our city a better place. Of course, Princess Auto, a very popular spot for many WSTers. It is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new waiting for you at Princess Auto. Pop by and see them in store, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, Brandon location as well. And of course, you can always shop online 24/7, 365 over at princessauto.com. Now listen, me personally, I am more than happy to enjoy this beautiful weather we've got right now. But I can tell you that our friends down at Chud's Power Sports in Gimli at the corner of Highway 8 and 231, Manitoba's premier, ultimate, award-winning power sports superstore, ready for the snow to fly. Now, the adventure never cools down, and while the colors are fading and we're gearing now up for the next season excitement, and the fall's meeting slow, and the open roads are calling louder than ever, we've got a full season of savings as we get into the holidays. From power sports to outdoor gear, your next adventure starts with unbeatable value at Chud's. Don't forget the amazing deals at their online parts store, TrueNorthParts.com, with incredible deals, including tons of clearance gear and accessories. But right now, thinking about November, of course, the snowmobile season is just around the corner. And with winter calling, you can lock in preseason deals on Polaris and Arctic Cat sleds before the flakes fly, with the best and most experienced team to help you in the province with Dermot and the gang. Over 140 years of experience getting people into great deals for their trails. And you can see Remis is throwing on everything that they've got at the website. If you go to chudspowersports.com, amazing featured items, clearance items, and the best in ATVs, UTVs, boats, snowmobiles, ice houses, Argos, Sasquatches, and more. You name it, they've got it. And again, Parts Superstore. You can look it up right on the site. They'll take care of it all for you. And of course, they just won the Dealership of the Year for the 50th anniversary of Manitoba Snowmobile Association for Snowman as well. ChudsPowersports.com. Pop by and visit them in Gimli. Tell them your boys at WST sent you. And hey, as we get ready for winter, the other thing that you need to know is that you are ready to go with your battery for your car or truck before you even get to that battery for the snowmobile. Well, batteries for literally everything. Donnie and the gang at Manitoba Battery have you covered. But right now, don't overpay at big box stores and beat the freeze before it beats you all November with free battery testing, a sale on booster cables and booster packs, $20 battery installs in store. They have got it all for you. And the bottom line is, you all love great deals. Donnie's got the best deals in town. Your local option to shop local and save money over the big box stores. Guaranteed the best prices in town at Manitoba Battery. 1026 Logan Avenue, south end of the city, 452 Dover Court Drive. And, of course, you could always order online, manitobabattery.com. All right, let's bring in Brandon Rewucki on the program as we get ready to start off this homestand. Rue, what's going on? I guess you were away on the weekend. You didn't get to take in the Grey Cup festivities, which were an absolutely huge hit all around. And obviously the game delivered with a pretty exciting one as well. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm doing good, man. Yeah, I was out in Brandon over the weekend, and it was a disturbing, actually, ironically, probably this shade of green. It was 80% riders here everywhere I went. So
yeah, they came out. They came out finally.
It wasn't just Winnipeg. They took over all of Manitoba, and then the team. I mean, it sucks, obviously, with the rivalry, but, I mean, the Riders were the best team in the CFL pretty much from start to finish. And I kind of like, you don't want it all the time, but, even though it is the Riders, it is nice for a pro sport when the best team ultimately wins the trophy and goes through the playoffs and everything like that. So, hey, full credit to them. But from where I could see in Brandon, everything looked like it was an amazing time out there in the Peg. Just, unfortunate. I couldn't be there. Unfortunate it wasn't the blue and gold against.
Yeah, no doubt. The one thing I'll say, in as much as, I mean, listen, they had only won 4 in their history up until now. They've still got a long way to go to catch pretty much everybody else. So we'll save that. But you know what? Good on them. And I'm sure you saw it in Brandon. We saw it here in the city, the scenes in Regina. It means something there. And that's great for the Canadian Football League as well. Let's get to the task at hand tonight. The Columbus Blue Jackets in town. And, I was just talking to Bob McElligott. I mean, you look at the Eastern Conference standings, and maybe I'll finally get my dream of 3-point games in the NHL, because with everybody going to overtime every single night, I mean, you've got 4 points separating the wild card teams and last place in the conference. Like, I've never seen it like this, where in a conference there's not a single team that's out of it right now. But at the same time, no one's really doing much on a positive note, and it's just this mash of mid teams with everybody basically being around the same spot. That being said, this Blue Jackets team comes in with some hope, I think a little bit of momentum, a nice win last night. But for all the talk about first game at home after a long road trip, the Winnipeg Jets need to take advantage of the fact that they practiced yesterday, they've had 2 days off, and this is a team that played last night coming in. There can't be any excuses from the home club tonight, especially with their back at pretty much full strength.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I mean, you come off the West Coast road swing. Like, if for me, I'd be jacked to get back at it at home. It's like, okay, finally get into the swing of things, get into the routine. And I mean, for the players and the fans, it's like, we don't have to play at 9 p.m. Great. So, like, they should be ready to go in this. So I'm with you there. I think especially, starting with this game, and let's just say for the rest of the calendar year here, and I don't know how many games that is, but probably in the range of 15 or so. This to me is when I'm kind of like officially determining what kind of a team the Winnipeg Jets are. Because like you said, like the excuses are now no longer available to them. The team is relatively healthy, if not fully healthy at this point. The guys that have been injured and missed a ton of time have at least had a few games under their belts now. And Jonathan Tage has had, a quarter of the season essentially to get back into the swing of things. So, I think you could look at some of their underlying numbers and struggles at times and pointed to, well, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for this. I don't think that really exists anymore. And so this is really almost like start of the season 2.0 for Winnipeg. Like, let's find out what they are. And I think truly we'll get a good sense in these next 10 to 15 games. This is what the Jets are going to be in their current iteration. This is where they need to improve on. And are they a legitimate contender? Or are they, like you said, in the immense pack of mid teams that currently exist in the NHL, which is pretty much 90% of the league? And that's a tangent I would love to go on another day, that the NHL is in a pretty precarious position right now. But I think for me, the Jets can basically kick off regular season 2.0 in a big, big way with a decent opportunity at their disposal tonight.
And you know what? I mean, I'll say the exact same thing that I just said about the East, with a small caveat in the West. Calgary's had a terrible start, 13 points. They're 7 games below 500. They're probably out of it. And the Nashville Predators, with their start at 6-10, probably in the same boat. And I would love to include St. Louis. I'm maybe not quite there yet with them. Other than those teams, every team is at least at NHL 500. And the difference between the Jets, who are in the third spot in the Central, the Kraken, who are in the third spot in the Pacific at 22 and 23 points respectively, there's another, well, both wildcard teams are 22 points. There's 3 more teams in Utah, Minnesota, Edmonton at 22, and then Vancouver at 20, Sharks at 19. It's pretty much the exact same thing here. Like, if you really want to look at good teams, the Avalanche will be at the top of the Chuds Power Sports Power Poll, probably going forward, unless they completely fall off a cliff. I mean, they have, one regulation loss on the season, which is just incredible. The Dallas Stars seem to be sort of letting everybody know what's what. New Jersey's 27 points. Well, they just lost Jack Hughes to the Frank the Tank curse. The Carolina Hurricanes, I mean, other than that, basically from 24 points, to your point, 24, 25 points to 19, like that group of that 6-point window, I think 85% of the league is somewhere between those, like in that window.
Which is funny because I see that and I'm like, this sucks. Like I don't, some people and maybe in other sports, a bigger push for it, but I don't love this kind of parity, right? And I think, there's been
fake parity too. It's completely fake parity because we don't do 3-point games for regulation wins. And people are now, I know we've talked about this before. I've been banging my fist on the table and kind of went off it the last few years but I think we need to revisit it right now because first of all, it's impossible. Like you can be, hey, we're only 4 points back. But if you have to pass 8 teams, it's not happening.
No, and the funny thing that the league has always made that their argument for is that with 3-point games, you could legitimately, as a fan, look at the standings and be like, we win 4 in regulation here. That's a 12-point jump up the You can actually, like, they've always just held on for dear life. Well, look at the standings. You're only a few points out, but everybody knows realistically how difficult it is. But if a game was worth 3 points, you're going to push for it in the last 5 minutes of the game, as opposed to what we see now where every team, like the point is more valuable than losing 2 points, which is not how you should be running basically an entertainment business, right? Like you're sucking all the value out of games that happen late here. So you have that combined with the fact that this explosion somewhat of the salary cap and salaries haven't caught up with it just yet. The free agent classes get wiped out. Every team holds on to every bit of talent with their dear lives because you lose somebody that's a capable performer in your top 6 and you're falling behind the rest of the league right now. It's to a point where it becomes really difficult for teams to try to find legitimate avenues to improve in season, right? Like it's pretty much, you're going to have 12 teams trying to pick apart the carcasses of the Calgary Flames and the Nashville Predators. That's pretty much it. Like, then they don't have enough talent to supplement the rest of the NHL for a playoff push. And I mean, God forbid we go to 34 teams. So 36 would be a complete nightmare. But it's just maybe this changes in a couple of years when teams can slowly get acclimated to the new salary cap boost. But I don't love the way this regular season is playing out right now, and it's going to be difficult for a lot of teams to really stand out from the middle of the pack. I think this is going to be one of those rare situations where you see Colorado, Dallas, like you said, maybe New Jersey, but like those teams are going to be at the top of the pack from start to finish. And I think we're going to see a pretty chalk playoffs where it's not going to surprise me to see the top 2 seeds in each conference meet up for the conference finals, because there is a gap right now, and it's just too difficult for teams to find ways to improve in season.
Let me ask you this about the Jets. And we're going to see tonight the first time all season long where the Jets are set up down the middle with Scheifele and Lowry and Taves and Morgan Barron. I had some conversations on the weekend just with some friends at Grey Cup stuff. People were asking me about the Jets, and I'm not sure that this team, well, I don't think they'll be better in the regular season. Just based on what they did last year and where they are right now. And it'd be very difficult to get back to that point. And I mean, maybe they're talking about, you're a 3rd place in the division or you're a wild card team. But I actually think that this team might be set up better for playoff success It's about getting there at that moment. I mean, the playoff success will also be much determined by how far Taves can get over the course of this year and whether the things that he brings are even more impactful at playoff time. But how would you sort of compare last year's team that was this regular season juggernaut that, hey, listen, won a series and lost a really close one to an excellent Dallas team, but being poised and set to be more of a playoff style team that can handle those top teams and, get back to their defensive excellence that was their calling card last year at the most important time of the season?
It's an interesting question. I think right now I would probably disagree with that premise because the Jets are missing the impact of Nikolai Ehlers, right? But if the Jets can, I think, add a dynamic, speedy winger, and if they can add basically an improvement on the top pair on the right side beside Josh Morrissey, then 100% I would agree with that. Even if they finish with 96 points, right? Like there's an avenue where I think that can be true. I don't think the team as it's situated right now that I would be willing to make that claim. The other big part of it is just that, was both the successes and the failures of last postseason a positive or a negative thing for this team, right? And maybe more so Connor Hellebuck specifically. Like I do think that, and people might scoff at this, but I do think that him being able to elevate in Game 7, I think it was in the second intermission where he said, "Nah, no more getting past me here." I think getting over that mental hurdle will put him in a better spot to be the guy everybody needs him to be come playoff time, and that's really been probably the biggest element missing from this team, that like regular season wise, he delivers value equivalent, maybe not as equivalent, but in the ballpark of McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon. Like it's just borne out by the numbers. And so when you get into the playoffs, if you're going to be that impactful in the regular season, you need to have that same level of success come postseason time. So I would say it's an incomplete answer to that. But I also don't think it's an impossibility that they could enter the playoffs in a better spot than they did last year.
Yeah, let me throw that out. We'll make that the why not question of the day for Not AutoCorp at Waverly and McGillivray. By the way, if you haven't got your winter tires yet, hit Chris up there. They'll take good care of you. They got a good winter tire program as well. Do you think that while the placement might not be as gaudy as it was last year, this lineup that we're going to see tonight, obviously Connor Hellebuck starting come playoff time, do you feel that is more set up to do more damage and to be a better Stanley Cup? Are their Stanley Cup chances better with this roster, assuming they're in the playoffs next year than before? We'll get to that in fan feedback, coming up with fans first a little bit later on. I am looking forward to seeing Morgan Barron, though, back in. And it's funny. Fourth lines, how much of impact do they really make? I mean, if you looked at it earlier in the season, Scott Arniel was trusting this group to play like in the final 3 minutes of games. It was night and day from, years ago when the fourth line would get 4 or 5 minutes a night, depending on what had happened, under Paul Maurice. How big of a boost do you think it is for the Jets to get Barron back in the middle of that fourth line?
Yeah, it's huge. I think the biggest thing is he injects some speed into this team. They're too slow right now. And so he's one of the rare guys where you can be like, we get speed and size back into our lineup here. So it's also getting to the point, Huss, like I love what he does down the middle, but I almost wonder if it's like, do we officially try to push him higher up into the lineup at the cost of moving him to the wing? I
was just about to ask you that. It's like, okay, we'll get to that right now. I mean, I think the fourth line is playing more and they've been more impactful there. Listen, the Lowry line looks pretty damn good right now with Iafallo and Niederreiter. The question that I have is, do you think at some point we might see Morgan Barron get an audition with Perfetti and Taves to add some juice to that second line, even though he's been so impactful at the center position, and this would likely be on the wing, where he has played the majority of his time here in Winnipeg?
I don't dislike the idea. I think at this point, I really do think you have two options with your top six. If you're going to keep the top line as is, which they've been great, so I can understand that, then I think having Morgan Barron there the playoff of Perfetti and Taves wouldn't be the worst idea in the world. They need more speed. Like, that's it. They just cannot. And not that Vladdy's super slow or anything like that, but Taves is slow. Like, that's the reality of the situation at this point in his career. I can relate.
Perfetti's not a burner himself.
That's exactly it, right? And so you need somebody to at least, whether it's helping them to carry the puck up or to provide a little bit more speed inside the offensive zone, you need to have somebody else there. The other move would be, and this would be a lot more upheaval, but you could also maybe try Cal Connor on a line with Jonathan Tate. And there's your injection of speed in a big, big way, right? And now it is a totally different complexion in terms of what your lineup is like and how you run the lines. And I totally get that. And that might be more of a, in case of emergency, we break the glass here and try this one out. But you see a lot of the other teams in the NHL has open to a lot more collaboration and trying different things out with their lineup. And I just wonder if maybe seeing how this team looks with a different top six, maybe that's not the worst idea in the world either. And again, you can go right back to Connor Scheifele-Velarde whenever you want. Like, they don't need game time to get into it. The chemistry's there. They know where each other are going to be at all times. That's a pretty damn good rock that you can rely on. But it's not, how do we create the best top line in Winnipeg? It's, how do you create the best 12 forwards? And so if that's the case, I'm willing to experiment a little bit more there. But I think at the very least, bearing up into the top six on that second line, that's like maybe the first baby step you take. Like, let's see if this can work. And if we can get the second line to produce at a bit of a higher rate, we don't need to touch that top line. But at some point, they're just going to need some sustained level of production outside of the top line. And that's been the big bugaboo in the recent slump this team has been in, is that they just can't rely on production outside of Scheifele, Velarde, and Connor.
Yeah, listen, I think before we bust up the entire top six, we got to give a little bit more time for Perfetti to get back into things. I mean, he's played, 4 games so far this year. And to be honest, I mean, the same thing. I see T. Will saying, they gambled too much on 2025 Taves being 2015 Taves. I mean, didn't we all said, like, give 25, 30 games, 40 games to see where things are? It is a process. The one thing that I will agree with you, though, is that Barron, the speed and his tenacity, his ability to make plays and get in on pucks and win battles on the wall, similarly to Alex Iafallo, there is room for that on that line. Like, it can be very, very beneficial, especially for a guy like Perfetti to basically be more of an offensive cog that has all that to happen. I think we're going to probably see a few things over the course of the next 3-4 weeks, depending on how things go with Scott Arniel. The good thing for him is that at least he has all these options available to him that they were probably thinking about trying during the offseason that just haven't been possible as you wait for Perfetti and Lowry and then Barron to come back. And I mean, to me, I'm sort of with you. I think this next period of time, this homestand, the upcoming road trip, we'll find out a lot about where the coaching staff feels like these players fit, and also the next moves they make when they do want to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, and it's funny because those moves are coming. Like, I just, you can't really envision a scenario where Chevy doesn't bring in, I would say, multiple reinforcements at this point. But I mean, if you can find the solution internally in-house, then great. You can either save some assets or at the very least push all your chips towards a specific position here. But I mean, Morgan Barron, he's one of those guys that the more responsibility that gets thrown onto his plate, he's found a way to kind of come through for this team. And it all started in the second half of last season. He was great then. He was solid during the playoffs, and then he got off to the great start this year as well. So, maybe let's not put a limit on his production here. And sometimes when you have guys that continue to deliver and maybe even in a case demand more and more, put a little extra on his plate, see if he's able to deliver it for you. And that would go a long, long ways to solving a lot of lineup problems up front. But I would agree that, maybe the more tangible thing the Jets could hope for is that Perfetti, now that he's got a little bit of action under his belt, takes that extra step that the team really needs, because ultimately that's the most realistic option for this team to get a secondary scoring jolt, is having Cole Perfetti go from, 35 points to 50 and now take a bit of a mini leap towards the 60, 70 point pace over a course of a season. So that would go a long way as well, regardless of who suits up besides Taves and Perfetti.
Rue, enjoy the game tonight. Should be an interesting one, and that big weekend at home. Carolina, I should say, with Ehlers' return on Friday night. And then our old pals, the Minnesota Wild, in on Sunday afternoon before the team hits the road again for a bunch of games out east against, some challenging teams. Looking forward to the next skates and plates as well, pal. Thanks for doing this.
Sounds good, guys. Have a good one. We'll talk soon.
All right, there is Brandon Rewucki of Skates and Plates. We've got a game day set up from Connor Rabchack coming up a little later on. A little bit more from Scott Arniel. But coming up next, we're going to talk to Scooch, recap Grey Cup week, and, of course, talk about the Bombers moving forward now that Mike O'Shea and Kyle Walters are staying put. We do have a little bit of audio from Mike, which we'll play while we're talking about that with Joe coming up right away. Of course, finishing up our Jets coverage, we hit all the lines. Pretty much all systems go for the top 12 right now, or the top 13. Cole Koepke out. We do that brought to you by Clean Line, who's a very proud sponsor of the Winnipeg Jets and Winnipeg Sports Talk. Locally owned and for 40 years growing into the top plumbing service in town, along with incredible heating and electrical services as a player, both commercially and residentially here in Winnipeg and in the southern Manitoba area. Go to cleanline.ca for all of your heating, plumbing, and needs. And, of course, as you see, the captain behind Clean Line bringing the heat so far on the ice, doing it as well right now as we get into winter. But Clean Line, the official plumbing service of the Winnipeg Jets, and they do have 24-hour emergency services available. So much like Adam Lowry has the back of the Winnipeg Jets, Clean Line has Jets fans back with 24-hour service. When you don't want to call, but you pretty much have to, they're there for you. Cleanline.ca for more on Clean Line plumbing, heating, and electrical. Man, fun weekend at all the Boston Pizzas. How about the turnout for the Overdrive boys down at BP Polo Park on Thursday and Friday? That was a heck of a lot of fun. City Place was a gong show all weekend, as you expected for Grey Cup. Well, now we get back into focusing on the Jets. And, of course, pick a player contest at your local Boston Pizza for all Winnipeg Jet games. And you can get on that new Flight Club menu with the pizza flights, wing flights, chicken bite flights, and fry flights, and your chance to win BP's grand prize trip for 2 to California, to Winnipeg to play Anaheim on February 27th, including flights, hotel, and amazing game tickets. Make it Boston Pizza tonight for the Jets game. And, of course, you can always get it hot and fresh to your door by ordering online at bostonpizza.com. Man, the guys at Royal sure did an amazing job for Grey Cup. Tons of exclusive new era hats that you couldn't find anywhere else flying off the shelves at Royal. And now Royal's going to be a very busy place for the next few weeks because it is the sports superstore with the best in licensed merchandise from the Winnipeg Jets, the National Hockey League, the NFL, the Bombers in the Canadian Football League, the Blue Jays in Major League Baseball, the NBA, and, of course, the hockey superstore for over 50 years in town. Take care of that Christmas list early and take care of every sports fan on your list with one simple trip to Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway. You can also check them out and follow them on Instagram for the latest merchandise drops and sale information. All right, Scooch is coming in hot. First, though, let's give a big cheers to our friends at Winnipeg's favorite local brewery, who were quite busy themselves this weekend, Little Brown Jug.
You train day in and day out, learning new techniques, approaching new concepts, and living out the thrill of achieving your goals. Building a craft beer is no different. While you spend your hours on the ice, we spend ours here, brewing our trademark beer. Again, and again. Here's to pushing the status quo and challenging ourselves to build something memorable. 1919 by Little Brown Jug.
All right, let's welcome in our pal Joe Pascucci, who just finished flying back out east after what I imagine for Scooch was a pretty darn fun Grey Cup weekend. What's going on, my friend? Great to see you at the game.
always great to see you. Yeah, caught up with you finally at the game itself, and it was a great week. I spent the whole week back in Winnipeg catching up with old friends, and of course meeting the old members of the media, new members of the Winnipeg media. Got back to Global at one point. Still a lot of the gang still there. Russ Hobson, didn't get a chance to meet him personally, but of course talked to Russ, and he's still going strong, still waving the flag for local sports on television in Winnipeg. Join Russ Hobson on Global late at night. That's the plug. But a great week, great time catching up with a lot of friends.
Listen, you've been to a lot of these before. And listen, we always are proud of what happens in our own city, but we've been talking about it, and I'm sure you heard about it from people from across the country. This was, a near flawless execution of what the Grey Cup is all about by the festival committee and the city of Winnipeg, and Bomber fans, even without their team in it, after being spoiled for 5 straight years.
Yeah, I definitely saw overabundance of Blue Bomber jerseys. And of course, you see the Saskatchewan, but you didn't see a lot of the other teams represented. Calgary was not too bad. Edmonton, okay. Not that much from BC. Definitely not that much from Ottawa. Didn't see a lot of Red Blacks. But, all the events were packed, of course, and all were great. I think the only negative I heard was the taste of the CFL or taste of Grey Cup. They had some problems there and some lineups there that, people were grumbling about. But otherwise than that, I heard nothing but good things.
Yeah, I think that taste was such a anticipated event. Everyone with the ticket was all there right when it started. It was a little bit of a rush. I know from people that were there a little later on, it kind of was a little more... a little lighter, and you could get the food and the drinks a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, that entire area around the convention center, the Touchdown Manitoba.
Yes.
Think back, because we remember for a long time, we'd go to these Grey Cups, as recently as 10 years ago, maybe even more recent than that. And, Spirit of Edmonton was a big deal, and Riderville was a big deal, and the Lions Den was growing. The Eastern teams kind of whatever. But for the longest time, the only Bomber presence in those spots was the Friday afternoon party of Touchdown Manitoba, which was 12 to 6, and then that was what the Bombers did. Obviously, with the Bombers now being the franchise in the Canadian Football League, under Wade Miller, no surprise, they've grown that in previous years leading up to this Grey Cup. But I will give them credit, as far as any event center team party, what the Bombers put on at the convention center this week, having that big act, it was the Watchmen, then it was Alan Doyle, and it was the Reclaws. That was as good of a feature party of that group while having everything else in the same facility that I've ever seen in the Grey Cup.
Yeah, and speaking of Wade, here's one thing I found disappointing. I know he got the Commissioner's Award, but that's usually handed out at the CFL Awards, and it came out on Sunday morning that in a press release that he won the Commissioner's Award. I didn't think there was enough significance put on that. It would have been nice to have an event where he's publicly awarded that Commissioner's Award. I thought they underplayed that a little bit, because that's a significant achievement, if you're in the Canadian Football League, to get that recognition from the commissioner. And Wade definitely deserves it.
Yeah, listen, no doubt about it. What he's done at the helm of the Bombers is the envy of the entire league.
Yep.
And this week, I think, was a chance to sort of put an exclamation on that by building on a season of sold-out games into a sold-out Grey Cup. And hell, basically a sold-out Grey Cup festival. The only thing I would say, and I think this is probably more to a bunch of red tape City of Winnipeg stuff, is that they couldn't sell more tickets when they probably could have squeezed some more people in that wanted to be there for it. That's the only thing. But I know that, listen, we've all dealt with the city at times for things before. And while I think Wade's pretty good about in their own park being able to say, hey, this makes sense, do it, and make it happen. Things aren't as easy when you're dealing with the bureaucracy of some of the cities. But overall, absolutely amazing. What were your takeaways from the game on Sunday to finish it all up?
It was a really good game. I don't say the full 60 minutes were a classic. Certainly that fourth quarter was a classic. And, I've been joking with Paul LaPolice, and I think I've mentioned this before on the show about, bringing in the third string quarterback. And I blame Paul because when he was here back in 2011 and 2010 as the coach, he really popularized that, bringing in the third string quarterback to do those short yardage, right? And I've never been a fan of it, right? And so I was joking with Paul that, you've ruined the CFL. I hate that. And he was smiling. He goes, yeah, but it works. But Paul.
Until it didn't.
Now, I don't understand. You're paying a quarterback $300,000, $400,000, some $600,000. You're paying him to win the game. So why, in the most critical situation when you're near the goal line, you take the guy you're paying the most money to and put in the third stringer? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I guess it works. But in this case, it didn't work. It didn't work for the Calgary Flames in I can't remember the year, but recently when they took Bo Levi Mitchell out, when they were down near their goal line, they put the Canadian quarterback in. He tried to rush around the end and got tackled. And of course, that game went to overtime and they lost. They lost in overtime. They took out the guy that's got him there, for the third stringer. And it just doesn't make sense. I don't like it.
Maybe, Joe, the aftermath, the legacy of this game will be to end that. Because I'm with you. I think it's the scourge of the CFL. We're talking about all these changes and the things that they're trying to do to continue to move the game forward and to make it more entertaining, and people have their different takes on it. If you said, I don't know whether there's any way to possibly legislate this, but it's like the CFL's version of the tush push in slow motion. Yeah. Instead of the ridiculous thing that the Eagles do all the time, which has so much controversy around it, you just get sometimes 1, 2, or in this case, Montreal was looking at, we're 2nd and 2 from the 3. If we get 1 yard each time, we're in for a touchdown. And it looks bad. It's not entertaining. It's like a pause in the game.
Yes. And
it blew up spectacularly on them. And I will say this. The Riders were leaking oil big time at that point. If they get that, and all of a sudden that 17-point lead,
yes,
in the final seconds of the third quarter turns into, even if they didn't get the 2-pointer and it's a 2-point game with 3 minutes left in the Canadian Football League, which is eons, you do wonder how things might have been different. But that'll be one that we'll remember for a long, long time. And maybe, just maybe, guys like us will get our wish, and they won't rely on these backups for all these boring 1-yard sneaks, and maybe add a little bit more juice into the game. The one thing I'll take away, because to me that was a pick'em, and obviously with that play, it basically was a game that could have gone either way by the end. And listen, credit to the Riders for winning. I'm not taking anything away from them.
They didn't make that many mistakes.
But if you think about Montreal, if you think about BC from the West Final, you think about Hamilton from the East Final. The margin of victory in these playoff games in the final 3 was so close. Every single team can probably look back and think, if we did one thing better, this play, that play, we could be having a parade today while it's happening in Regina. And I'll tell you what, that makes for a really interesting offseason. And that is what you want. Because, these CFL playoffs, I thought, were absolutely phenomenal, right down to the attempted Hail Mary on the last play of the Grey Cup.
Most exciting playoffs from start to finish. I would think over many a year. You can't get 5 games like that often in the playoffs, and of course that brings us back to the commissioner trying to make all these changes to make the game more exciting. There's nothing wrong with the game as it is, Mr. Johnston. You don't have to make all these changes to make the game more exciting. It is already exciting. Some rule changes, yes, but not to the dramatic rule changes that you have made.
Now, listen, the big story around the week was the future of Mike O'Shea and Kyle Walters. And I know they don't normally like news breaking on Grey Cup week, but, once that deal was apparently agreed to, it made sense just to let people know, hey, they're coming back, go party, we'll talk about it next week. And they did. Mike O'Shea actually spoke today. And Remis, if you can, let's just pull this clip up. This is O'Sh talking about coming back and coming back to a team that has been supported so well by Winnipeg fans. Here's what Mike had to say at his presser.
Mike, congratulations on the new deal.
Thank you.
How does it feel to be back? Or to not have left, let's say?
I think that's the right way to put it. Yeah, it feels great. Yeah, it was good. Good decision.
What led you to return to the Bombers?
I mean, there's obviously a whole pile of reasons, but we built something pretty damn special here. So you'd like to continue that. The season didn't work out the way we wanted, but I think there's still a lot of growth to be had, and a lot of legs left in it. So that family, all sorts of things, but I wanted to be here.
What is it about the organization? What is it about the city, perhaps, that appeals to you to continue?
Well, it's a great sporting city. The fans are unbelievable. I've always said this, highly educated. They show up in droves. Obviously, we set an attendance record for our club, and all the sellouts, the support you get around the community is phenomenal. They're very respectful in that regard. And then obviously, like I just said, with the club, we've managed to build something here that's, it's a top 5 historic sort of thing in the CFL. So you'd like to continue that, really.
All right. Now, Scooch, I just wanted to play that so people got a little bit of a taste of the start of the presser today.
Yeah.
Vintage O'Shea. What are we talking about? I'm back. We're moving forward. Listen, I'll be the first one to admit, people from I was going on other shows, people were asking me about Mike O'Shea, and I'm like, why are we even talking about this? This sounds like the stupidest thing I could ever imagine. You're going to move from a team that's sold out every game with everything that you've done and accomplished here in Winnipeg after one down season to go to the Argos, which now basically, in my opinion, are a second-rate CFL team where the ownership doesn't really care about them. They made the decision to play another 3 road games next year. It just didn't make any sense. But, Joe, even I, through last week, was going, I guess I'm going to have to recognize that this is a possibility considering you just spent a day out in Toronto with the Argos.
Yeah.
How did you see all this coming together? And did you ever think that there was really a chance that Mike O'Shea would leave what he's built here with the Bombers?
I thought he was leaving. I just didn't think there was anything left for him to accomplish here. So, and of course, it's a return home for he and his family. And for his wife's parents, as well. They're in, I think they're in that Burlington, Hamilton area. So I thought he was gone. And I think, if I'd been at that news conference today, I think I would have been a little bit of a jerk. And, after all the things he just said there, I would say, so Mike, why did you agree to take the meeting in the first place? If you just said, why would you leave? Why did you agree to take the meeting? Is that just out of respect for pinball?
Like, what do you think it was? A little bit of that and a little bit of negotiating with the Bombers? I mean, I'm not sure things were as rosy behind the scenes as maybe it always seems to us beforehand, and that's what comes with not meeting your goals in a pressure-packed season when you're hosting the Grey Cup. It still could never make sense for me to leave what he's built here in Winnipeg to go to the Argos.
Was he asked about the assistant coaches today? I'm not sure if he was asked about that.
We're just getting through this. It's just kind of coming in. So,
okay. I mean, that's one thing I would like
put
to
it this way.
from
I'm sure he didn't answer the question. I can pretty much, even if it was, I can pretty much tell you, hey, we're going to be talking about a lot of things. Like, listen, it's still Mike O'Shea. I'm not sure he's all of a sudden putting it all out on the table for everyone just because they asked.
Yeah, I know. He certainly keeps the cards in his back pocket. He doesn't keep them close to the vest. He doesn't even show them, right? And he is unique. He does have a good winning record, but I was disappointed at his closing news conference when he realized that that there were problems with the offense and admitted that he should have got himself more involved. Well, you're the head coach. That's your job. You coordinate everything, and there's a problem. Obviously, you've heard from the players that there's a problem. Why didn't you get yourself more involved? So, I mean, I think he does have some warts on his performance this year, and I hope that changes. You need to get a little more involved if you're the head coach. You just can't leave it up to your coordinators.
Hey, listen, before we go, there was so much going on last week. And I was a little late to reading the piece, but you'd sent this over to me. And, one of the things that I love about having you on the program is just unique, that like the history, even for someone of my age that's been around for a long time. This story that you wrote about the Grey Cup going to Fargo, North Dakota is one of the coolest, just quirky CFL stories that I heard. It's at 3 Down Nation, so I'll suggest people go and read the entire piece. Some really cool photos and pictures of newspapers from back then. But just Cole's notes the 1954 event of the Grey Cup and Bomber fans watching the game in the infancy of television in Fargo.
Okay, I'm going to try to really abbreviate this, but go to 3 Down Nation. Search Fargo. That's the easiest way to find the piece. Okay. 1954, we have finally got television in Manitoba, but the Grey Cup is only televised live in the East. 1954, NBC Television loses U.S. college football rights. So as a way to counter program, they pick up Canadian football games. So they were televising the games in the East of the Big Four, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, and Hamilton. And they claim, NBC claims, that 20 million Americans watched their first telecast of Canadian football. So a couple of Winnipeggers approached a Fargo businessman who was up for a bridge tournament. He came to play bridge. And they told him that Winnipeggers would go to Fargo to watch the Grey Cup game if they could, put it on TV there. And WDAY was the only TV station at the time in Fargo. So they got all the businesses together, and that's the ad for the first Grey Cup game. That was in 52. They got all the businesses together in Fargo, all the hotels, the bars, and stuff, to put the Grey Cup game, that they would host the party. WDAY agreed to pick up the NBC feed of the Grey Cup game and not show the Army-Navy game. So 2,500 Manitobans made it down to Fargo to watch the 1954 Grey Cup game and had quite a party down there, did a lot of shopping as well, as most Manitobans do when they go to Fargo. And it was quite a party. And if you want to read more about the early days of television in Canada and this party for 2,500 Manitobans, and there probably would have been more, but there had been a snowstorm the day before. And, these difficult times with no one going really across the border because of all the tariffs and President Trump. It was great. The mayor of Fargo, Herschel Lashkovich, he was saying that that weekend was an example for basically the rest of the world to see how two nations can get along with each other. And of course, that's not the case anymore. But it's quite a party. It is quite an interesting read. There's a lot of details. One detail I didn't have in the story, Huss, was that in Vancouver, what Vancouver did was they picked up the NBC feed of the game and put in the CBC TV audio.
Huh.
So they did have it sort of live in the West, but they were picking it. They had the NBC feed, and the NBC had their own announcers for these games. So they went all in on Canadian football in 1954. So I found that unique. And I think Windsor was the other one where they picked up the feed from Detroit, but put in their own CBC TV audio of the game.
Well, I mean, listen, this is the 112th Grey Cup we just played. I mean, there's such incredible history with this league. And the Super Bowl is basically half that old. So, this is at a time when, in a lot of ways, the CFL was one of the true leaders in professional football. And anyways, it's a really good read, folks. Remo will throw a link in the chat to do it. And by the way, just an update on your question. Getting us, and this is courtesy of our pal John Hodge, who will pop on later on this week. According to Osh, he and Kyle Walters have barely talked about off-season plans for the team's roster, just coming out of the Grey Cup weekend.
Makes sense.
He declined to disclose the contract status of any of his assistant coaches, leaving it unclear who will return. So I think certainly feeling some heat from a number of ways. And frankly, I think based on the results last year and the performance, particularly in the offensive side of the football, we'll be seeing some, potential coaching changes. But also I think a probably the most interesting offseason we've had with the Blue Bombers, in this era, based on how active they might be and the changes we might see in player personnel too, which to me is absolutely necessary for this team to be in the conversation to potentially be having that parade a week from or a year from today.
And the person putting on the most heat is Wade Miller.
Oh yeah.
and the first thing the Bombers have to do now that they've got the coach and the GM signed up, get Brady Oliveira signed up.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, listen, Scooch, great seeing you this week. Let's do this again soon.
Okay.
And I'm glad you had such a good time along with everyone else that came to the Peg for a Grey Cup weekend.
All right. Thank you for everyone back in the Peg.
Appreciate it. There's Joe Pascucci at Pascucci015. Make sure you're following him on X. Always some great tidbits and pieces of video and stuff, and we always love having him on the program. Remo, maybe we queue up the game preview setup from Connor right now. We are going to have Jake Bolen Moss join us. Jake, Pat, and the boys got their first taste of the Peg on the weekend, which was a hell of a party. But listen, before we do this, we got a big game tonight. Connor, of course, was down at the morning skate. Another reason to follow us on all of our socials. If you can't catch the show, you get great stuff like this from Connor. But here is our game day report heading into tonight's 7 o'clock puck drop with the Jets and the Columbus Blue Jackets.
The Winnipeg Jets are back home from a 6-game road trip. Here's everything you need to know ahead of tonight's puck drop. Morgan Barron missed 6 games with an upper body injury. He returns to the lineup tonight as the 4th-line center. The Jets also activated Cole Koepke off of injured reserve, and in a corresponding move, sent Brad Lambert, Nikita Chibrikov, and Parker Ford down to the Moose. Here's what Scott Arniel said about Morgan Barron returning to the lineup and how important it is to have all 4 centers healthy.
It's good to see that middle of the ice. We felt that having those 4 guys gave us strength through there, and we get to test it tonight.
Another note is that Eric Comrie will start in net for the Winnipeg Jets tonight. Connor Hellebuyck started the final 3 games of that 6-game road trip, so Comrie gets game 1 of the homestand. The final bit of news is that Hayden Fleury joined today's morning skate in a yellow non-contact jersey, and he seems to be nearing a return as well. It's Filipino Heritage Night here at Canada Life Center. Puck drop is 7 p.m. This has been the WST Game Day Report. I'm Connor Rabchack.
All right, great stuff with Connor. I also want to get to fan feedback brought to you by fansfirst.ca, your number one spot for buying and selling Winnipeg tickets on the resale market, where what you see is what you pay. No added fees at Fans First. Listen, the chat's been popping today, talking Bombers, talking Grey Cup, and of course, talking Jets. I do, Phyllis had mentioning, about the everything that happened last year. But I asked, about the setup of this team as you look ahead to the playoffs. You got to get there first. Phyllis says, we'll be a playoff team for sure. Not sure what the rank will be, but just get to the dance and fly after that. Tyson Ducharme, we have an actual second line now. We're way better off. Jeff Montgomery popping in for the our topic of 3-point games. He says just put the points back to 2 for any win and nothing for losing in any way. Just sucks coasting to OT for a lower point. See, I really don't like that, because as much as I'm a fan of the shootout as someone that buys tickets, I'd far rather watch a shootout of the best players in the world doing that as opposed to just leaving and not getting that entertainment and it being a tie. I don't think that a win in a shootout should be the same as winning in regulation or blowing a team out 6-0. And again, it is literally the point scoring system in international hockey, in European hockey, and it's the fairest when it comes down to it. Every game worth the same amount of points. You win in regulation, you get 3. You win in overtime or a shootout, you get 2, and the other team gets 1. Everyone seems to like it when it's used everywhere else, and yet to prop up some very mid teams and make people think that they're still in on the never-ending regular season of the NHL, that they have to do it. And it harms the product. It harms the end of these games, particularly in cross-conference games. So again, I've got my thoughts on that. Couple other ones. And Winnipeg Sports Fan loves Fans First. Sold 2 of this week's games on there this morning. I know they were really busy. really busy for the Grey Cup, obviously, with it being sold out. Man, if only they could have had festival passes on Fans First, it would have been booming business as well. Fan feedback, as always, brought to you by Fans First, by fans, for fans, no fees. Check out the site today over at fansfirst.com. All right, let's bring in Jake, who, well, we'll see how he's doing right now, because it was quite the weekend. We had an amazing VIP and media event on Saturday. Shout out to Kevin and Bree and the amazing staff at Confusion Corner. Let's see how Jake's doing today as he's back to work and back to normal. Jake, how are you doing? And how do you look back at the wonderful weekend we shared here in the Peg?
Yeah, the Peg was unreal, Huss. I was happy you're a gracious host. You showed us the ropes. We got to see, all the spots we hear about on the show all the time. So, yeah, I mean, Confusion Corner, the people there, unbelievable. We had a great party on Saturday night. And then, I know people on here don't want to hear it, but we were at the game. We were rooting for Sask and our guy, Brett Lawther. And we did, we were lucky enough to get the chance to go to the party after the game, which was an unreal time. Yeah, there's the picture there. Thanks, Remo. Yeah, so I know people aren't in love with hearing about that, but just that experience was absolutely incredible. And, off being at those World Series games and the Jays coming up short, it was nice to get a win here near the end of the year.
Okay, listen, I'm going to bring that up because, of course, if people were following along in the socials, Patty and Jake were, updating all the cool bettors on all the fun and everything that was happening at the Grey Cup. And right after the Alouettes made an 11-point game, and last play, I believe, of the third quarter, the fours went up, and here we go. And shortly thereafter, the Montreal got the field goal to make it 8. And then Brett missed a 39-yard field goal, and it got real tense. Riders coming down, and I'm thinking even I was feeling a little bit bad as a guy that had bet Montreal, that wanted it to happen, going, oh my God, this could be huge. And I was thinking more of, if it happened that Montreal won, how you would be able to to bounce back from this after what happened with the Jays and then being so close. But hey, credit to the Riders. They found a way to do it. Defense wins championships, and I think we can say it. Their defense won the championship on the weekend. Trevor Harris, MOP, full marks for it. But it was the turnovers and one play on the goal line that will live in infamy for Montreal fans and in legend for Rider fans. Imagine, and I said this before too, as much as we have the fun rivalry, I am happy for Rider fans. For the CFL, which in some markets doesn't get the respect that it deserves, it matters there. It matters a lot. And we saw it around the city afterwards. I know you guys were down with the Rider party at the Delta. A lot of joy around there. And I know that they're having a big party today in Regina with the parade and bringing that team back. So pretty amazing ending to a great season. But more importantly, I know this is your first Grey Cup. I got to tell you, the bar was raised pretty high for everything we saw at the convention center, around the city, on game day. From your perspective, who hadn't done it, I mean, did it exceed your expectations for what the Grey Cup is all about?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Pat and Andrew have hyped up the Grey Cup to me. Andrew's had a chance to go to a couple, and Patty went to the one in Sask there a few years back when we were in Qatar. And so, I did have pretty high expectations going in, believe it or not, for, a league like the CFL. And I think the thing that's so cool about the Grey Cup and about the CFL is it's not just fans of the two teams playing in the game that are coming out to this event. It's fans from all over, and people are repping their teams. And, there's you can feel the passion in the room, for these teams and everyone getting along as much as there's rivalries. And, I'm sure there's some deep-rooted hatred, but doing it in a place like Manitoba, which obviously has deep CFL roots. You guys love your Blue Bombers, and I love that. I think that's from a Winnipeg standpoint where you can look at Sask and be like, well, these might be our rivals, but we can respect these guys because there's passion for the game, for the league. being here in Toronto, being in Ontario, it's not quite there, right, with the Argos. So, that's what I enjoyed so much, the passion from, fans across the league. And even I forget what the team name is, the Atlantic team, though, that they have their own
Schooners.
Team, the Schooners. So they have their own team room, and the team has never existed, and every single jersey says still undefeated. Honestly, one of my favorite little wrinkles of the whole thing, being down at the Grey Cup Festival and seeing that, and just trying to put it all together, like what's going on here. Yeah, the Schooners still undefeated. Shout out to them.
Let's talk some NHL. But anyways, thanks again, for the entire Coolbet team to come here. It was so great to be able to host you guys and get you guys in the peg after how much we talk. And I know that the city and our crew came off so well. We're going to plan some more big things and get you guys back here a little more often than just when we host the Grey Cup. And you can stay tuned for all of that. Oh, by the way, question about the poker for this week. I saw someone in the chat, Jake, asking about this. We had planned to do our next one scheduled on Wednesday. But I think with the chaos of the Grey Cup and everything like that, we're going to do it next week instead. I'm looking at, because the Jets are playing in Washington on Wednesday, I think the date, and I'm just going to confirm it, but will be next Tuesday. So for everyone that was wondering, and I'm going to dig in, there might be a possibility, depending on some plans that I just need confirmation on, for maybe a couple more interesting little carrots for our WSTers that like to play in the tourneys. So we will do that. I'll confirm on the show tomorrow the date of it, but we're gunning for next Tuesday, which is an off day for the Winnipeg Jets before they play those 3 games in 4 nights. So for everyone that was asking about the next poker tourney, our next chance to take out Hammer, I will confirm tomorrow, but we're hoping that it will be next Tuesday, November 25th. Again, stay tuned on that. We'll also put it out on our socials as soon as it's all confirmed.
Listen, I can confirm Hammer was taking some victory laps at the Coolbet party on Saturday night. He's a pretty confident guy. I gotta respect to Hammer, man. He
at this point, even if he wasn't,
he thinks he goes into every one of these tournaments as the favorite. So I want you guys to take him out next tournament.
The bounty will be back on Jeff Hamilton. I can assure you. I can assure you of that. Your Leafs don't seem to be very confident when they're going in every night. We've been talking about how just there's so many mid teams like packed into this, but I will say it is a little shocking to see the bottom of the Eastern Conference, a tie between the Leafs and the Buffalo Sabres. 5 straight losses. Matthews out right now. I mean, I don't think you can possibly say it's panic time right now, knowing they're still just 4 points back of a playoff spot. But again, you got another 8 teams in between there right now, Jake. Where's your level of concern? How high is the meter right now?
Yeah, I think where the concern comes in, Huss, it's like, you mentioned all the numbers and them only being 4 points out of a playoff spot. That's great and all, but the concern right now is the health of this team. The minute they start to lose players, it starts to look real ugly in Toronto. Brendan Carlo is hurt right now. Chris Tanev is hurt. Austin Matthews is hurt. Nick Waugh is hurt. Like, you go look at the daily face-off of the Puckpedia lineups right now, it's not pretty. Anthony Stolarz is also out, so they did get Joe Wool back. And he looked pretty solid the other night, but they couldn't find a way to get it done for him. Listen, I don't think the concern is necessarily where they are in the standings, but more of, how healthy are they going to get here in a short period of time that they can actually start winning these hockey games. I keep saying, okay, this is the night. This is the night. I'm starting to worry the night might not be coming. I know you say it's not a high level. I think it is still early, but if they don't start to get healthy, I think it's going to turn ugly fast.
Well, the Jets came off a kind of a disappointing road trip, salvaged that last 2 points in Calgary, but a big 3-gamer tonight. By the way, we're just going to hit the lines right now in chat, but I got to cook up something for our Jets exclusive tonight. I'm thinking Jets to win, Kyle Connor to score, and I'm thinking an Adam Lowry point. But if any of you have any ideas or passionate arguments of something that I should include, now's your time to do it in the chat while we look at the other games tonight up at Coolbet. NHL, it's a pretty good slate tonight. We started off with the Kraken and the Red Wings. Detroit is a minus 169 favorite. Seattle's plus 143. The Tampa Bay Lightning, a minus 167 favorite against the Devils, who are now going to get back at it without Jack Hughes. We'll see how they go. New Jersey's plus 141. The Blues and Leafs play in TO. This is probably one of the few teams, even people that don't like the Leafs, we'd love to see you just keep your foot on the neck of the St. Louis Blues right now. Blues minus 103, Toronto minus 114. The Islanders are in Dallas, plus 145. Dallas is minus 172. This game here in Winnipeg, interesting line on this one. Jets are minus 182 favorites. Columbus is plus 153. I would have suggested that would normally be in and around minus 170. I thought we'd be looking at a minus 200 plus number because Columbus played last night in Columbus, went to overtime, had to travel here today. Total for the game is up 6.5. Jets on the puck line, which is something I did consider, is plus 133. Other three games, Calgary and Chicago. This is a weird one. I was talking to Dusty with this in the lock shop. Calgary is up minus 118 road favorite. The Blackhawks, who've been playing really well this year, tied with the Jets right now, even money at home. I know Spencer Knight's not playing, but I can't imagine that that's a big enough reason to have them as a dog. I may actually get in on a little bit of Chicago tonight. Utah's minus 135, having played last night against Anaheim against the Sharks. I don't mind the Sharks at plus 115 either. Utah hasn't been particularly good lately. And then finishing it off with the Rangers and the Golden Knights. Vegas minus 133, New York plus 113. But yeah, Jake, the two ones that really kind of shot out to me, which is not normally teams that you'd be backing for the last couple of years. Chicago is an even money home dog to Calgary, and the Sharks is a plus 115 home dog to Utah, who played last night.
Yeah, listen, Huss, I think we're not quite there, but we're starting to get into this era, with Chicago and San Jose. They're not just an automatic loss every single night, right? But I think the book is still kind of looking at them as, an up-and-coming team, a team that's not quite ready to be a favorite on a night-to-night basis. So, you look at them, like Blackhawks at home as even money dogs versus the Flames. I don't really understand that line. I'm with you there. And then the Sharks, that was the first one when I looked at the card that I was like, oh, you know what? I don't mind the Sharks at home at plus 115. You're getting two home dogs. And it's not like they're playing monsters of their conferences. Like we're talking about the Flames. I know the Mammoth have had a nice season to this point, but like you said, haven't been playing as great as of late. So I think that's a great start for a parlay, a couple home dogs, and maybe we throw one more in. Or, Huss, two home dogs, you could just play it as a two-piece if you really wanted to.
Well, for sure. And listen, I think once you bet Chicago and San Jose, it might be getting a little greedy to do much more, but plus 330 before any sort of a boost. Maybe we just say tanking no more, and we go Chicago and San Jose.
I like it.
With a two-gamer. You know what I'm going to do for our Jet parlay tonight? Let's go. Well, let's just pull up and just see what the props are tonight. Kyle Connors plus 170 to score. Scheif plus 140. Gabe Vilardi plus 175. Marchenko and Fantilli, the top players on Columbus, plus 180 and 2-1 respectively. If we go to player points, Josh Morrissey, minus 156. I don't see an Adam Lowry number, but I know that we can probably get one in there. You know what we're going to do? Okay, this is it. Jets to win, Kyle Connor to score, Morrissey and Lowry both with a point. I think that's what we'll lock in. So we'll try and get that up in the exclusives. You can check that up a little bit later on before we do it. Hey, just before we go, I know your guy Drake May is no longer the favorite to win the MVP. we kind of said that whoever won that LA-Seattle game on the weekend between Darnold and Matt Stafford would probably jump up to that. But a great time to jump into those NFL futures, and we can talk a bit more about that on Winners coming up at Friday at 10 a.m. Make sure to join us live every Friday during NFL season. But Matt Stafford plus 135 now for the MVP coming off that big win. But Drake May, it kind of looks like a two-horse race right now with your guy May coming off another win, albeit over the Jets, at plus 175.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Drake still being out there. I think it makes sense, Huss, like what you were saying about Seattle and that Rams game, that lead quarterback probably taking a jump. But, don't sleep on Josh Allen there in the third spot. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He has a couple more big games. I know it's not going to be like that every single night, but he has a couple more big games. He's going to absolutely be in the mix there at plus 450. So, listen, I don't disagree right now as in the two-horse race. Drake didn't look great. Thursday Night Football, little extra rest. We'll see what this week brings. I actually don't know. They might be on the bye this week. I have to go check. I honestly, I'm so frazzled from being in the peg. No, so they're playing this week. They got the Bengals. Yeah, so, I mean, he has a monster game against the Bengals, which everyone has a monster game against the Bengals. Don't be surprised if he's got a good number once again up at the top of that board next week.
Well, for people that like playing futures, and I absolutely love it, it's kind of like a fun way of it's almost like the stocks. You can get things low and then they come high. This has changed so much. I mean, after the Chiefs beat the Bills, Josh Allen was plus 175 or plus 150, clear favorite by himself. They lose to the Dolphins. He goes to 7-1. And then has the big game last week. He's now at plus 450. Jonathan Taylor went from 5-1 to 9-1 on a bye. So there is value. It's about getting in at the right time. Mahomes now 20-1 after being the favorite 2 weeks ago. And really kind of looks like it's that top 3 and then everybody else. Super Bowl right now, Philly the favorite of 5-1, Rams plus 550. Bills plus 850, Colts plus 950, and the Chiefs still up there 10-1, and the Lions 11-1. Both teams not in the playoff spot as we talk going into this weekend.
I think this is a great week that we get that to make the playoffs numbers back up. I'll send a message to the guy and see if we can get some updated numbers because, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs, but at the same time, it's like, how many more of these games are they going to have where we're just like,
they can't have
what
any.
is going on with Kansas City? I know, like we're running out of opportunities, right? And there's a lot of teams in the AFC, if you're looking at it right now, that have want to have a say in that playoff race, and only 7 teams are going to get in. So I'm sure you're not hitting the panic button just yet with still having Mahomes and Andy Reid, but they're running out of opportunities like this. So they lose this week to the Colts. I think you might be hovering over that panic button if I had to guess, but. What do
they have to win this week? There's no doubt about it. 5-5 with 7 games left. The good thing is that now they're getting a schedule that probably is a little closer to what the Patriots and Broncos have. Home to the Colts, tough game, got to win it. Then at the Cowboys on Thanksgiving,
nice
mini bye, and then finish up with the Texans, Chargers, Titans, Broncos at home, Raiders in the final week of the season. So, I mean, they should be able to do it. But again, there's teams that they got to pass. There's no more outs.
It's not even the lightest schedule. I know Chargers, that's a divisional game. Those are tough.
Yep.
Hopefully the Raiders game at that point, even if it doesn't matter, you should probably win that one. But the Texans could be fighting for their playoff lives. Like, it's all very, very interesting, Huss. Listen, I'm not going to root against your Chiefs. But I am a little nervous that if the Pats are the team that's sitting there and say the Chiefs are the 6 or 7 seed and, they win a wild card weekend, the Pats are the 1, it could be a little Chiefs headed to Foxborough for
listen, I mean, there's the chance. Game. Now, the Ravens are probably going to finish in the 4 hole just because they'll be the lowest seeded of the division winners, assuming they catch Pittsburgh. But you're exactly right, and I've been thinking about this. I mean, if Kansas City sneaks in, say they go 6-1 and they finish up 11-6 for the season, but they don't win the division, so they're, the 6th seed.
Right.
If they're going up against a New England team that had a great record but didn't have a lot of big leverage games, playing a easier schedule, Denver as well. I mean, what'll the odds be on that? Like, you could have wildcard teams favored in that first round. But again, that's a long, long ways to go. We'll have some fun time to look at our favorite futures as well, coming up on WST winners on Friday. The Thursday nighter is actually a good one and a big one, Buffalo and Houston. So I'll look forward to that one. We'll talk about that. Pat's going to join us coming up on Thursday's show. Jakey, once again, thanks to you, Ange, Pat. Been great to have you guys here, man. It was a lot of fun, and we'll look forward to getting the boys back together hopefully very soon, including the three of us Friday morning, to hopefully get, for me personally, some much better picks this week than I had last week. It was not a good one for the Huss, but we're back on the horse tomorrow. But great having you here, man. Thanks again for everything.
Yeah, listen, the Peg was awesome. It was great getting to see everybody and, meet some of the WST crew in person for the first time. Remo and Connor, Liz. Yeah, that was a great time. And I will say, as great as the times were, I did come home. I some housekeeping in the chat. I did come home to a cold sore last night. I've gotten these my whole life, and just bad timing. You come off the trip, some weather, some bad sleep. So that's what I'm working on my lip
cold
right now.
Cold sore guy.
Folks.
This is W non-ST talk for a minute. But while you bring it up, have you ever? I've been the same with you over the course of my life. I've gotten cold sores. My ex-girlfriend told me about this product. Have you ever had L-lysine?
Oh,
dude, go to like Vita Health or I don't know, whatever your health food store. It's like these pills, L-lysine. You go grab a pack of that or like one of those jars and just take like 4 or 6 of them. I still to this day cannot believe how effective. It literally just zaps it. Stops it. You might see it for a little bit, but it won't be sore, it won't be hurting, and it'll go down. Try that. There's the prescription from Dr. Huss for you.
That's big, Huss. I'm glad I brought it up. That's big.
Cold sore issues, L-lysine. You'll get it at a health food store. I don't even know what it is. It's some sort of supplement. It's these big white kind of pills. Crush a bunch of them. Boom. It will get zapped. I bet it works. Take 4 to 6 and then come back and see Dr. Huss next week, Tuesday afternoon.
Okay, awesome. I appreciate it, Huss. I will get right on that.
Right on, Jake. You take it easy, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
All right, there's Jake Bolen Moss. Again, coolbet.com. Shout out to our winners for the course of the weekend. And if you want to ride with us, we'll have that Jets exclusive up in the exclusives a little bit later on today. Hustler, which doctor to the stars? Remo, you ever get cold sores?
I don't think so.
That's
I've
good.
gotten other stuff that I've had to deal with, but I don't think that is one of them.
The chat is going to be funny in there. Winnipeg Pharmacy Talk. I've seen that product somewhere. This took a turn. Yes, indeed. As I say, I had no idea what the heck it was. I was told about it. I used it. And anytime I even feel like, oh, man, this is coming, I just go have a few of them, and it takes care of it. And it literally has stopped that. That had been a problem for me for a long time. Never again. So full endorsement right there on your cold sore issues. And right now it's chapstick season. I find things are a lot drier right now, and I've been back on the grub. What do you think about tonight there, dude?
Oh, I thought you were gonna ask what brand of chapstick that I've been using.
Oh, I'm a Carmex guy. Always Carmex.
I forget what I have. Mine's green. I forget the one. I have it upstairs.
I like the Carmex, either the tub or now they've got it in the little, like usually you get a 2-pack of the little tubes. You take it off and adjust it that way, but that's been on my training table for years.
Sorry, Blistex is the one. I had to Google lip balm.
Blistex is right there. It's got to end in X. EX. I mean, it's
Carmex, Blistex. I'm not a Burt's Bees guy. But what am I on tonight? I'm really intrigued. I like the Jets to put up some some big points here tonight, Huss. Got really disappointed by Edmonton last night against Buffalo. Score one freaking goal. You know how many regulation wins Edmonton has this year, Huss, in like 20 games?
4.
Like, this is getting sad.
Worst in the league. San Jose, Calgary, Edmonton.
What is
4 regulation wins.
What is happening?
Another reason why if we had 3-point games, this team would be even further down the standings. Probably don't even deserve to be where they are right now. You'll never guess what I did last night after the Buffalo-Edmonton game.
Was it Edmonton postgame?
Straight to EST. Straight to EST. They're not happy right now. Everybody sucks. And the thing is, we've seen this song and dance before from Edmonton. Terrible in October and November. And then, next thing you know, they're playing for the Cup in June. So we'll see how that goes. But as far as the Jet game goes tonight, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I like Perfetti for a point there on the power play coming into his own against Columbus. I think you got to feel good. Comrie's been solid. They're in a really good spot here with the day off, and Columbus playing last night. So we've been to some games where the Jets have put up a few against Columbus. Although going back over 10 years now, Columbus was the team that got Claude Noel fired. So we'll have to. That was a while ago, but we can still talk about it, right?
Oh man, I was in my seats with Joel Marcoux for that game. I just remember turning to him and going, "This, what we're watching right now, is a team that's trying to get their coach fired." And lo and behold, that was a Saturday night game. Sunday morning, we got the news that he was out. By the way, speaking of Jets coaches, and Remo, if you want to go on X to the Canadian national men's soccer team, it's at CanMNT.
I saw this.
There is a picture. I'll make my crack on the show. I didn't put this on Twitter because I didn't want my here it is. I didn't want my mentions going off. This is Jesse Marsh linking up with Stanley Cup champion, 2-time Stanley Cup champion coach of the Florida Panthers, Paul Maurice. We know that Jesse Marsh is in big demand. He's committed to being with the Canadian team through the World Cup. I was going to tweet, I hope he's not getting any advice on how to ditch your team and leave your job.
Oh my God. Yeah, don't really talk about that one. But yeah, Paul Maurice, 2-time Stanley Cup champion now in Florida. That was a wild game last night. They put up 8 on Vancouver, and I said on the show I like Mackie Saskamovich to score. Just about everyone got a point except for him somehow. So I'll take an L. I'll take an L on that one. But yeah, 8 goals last night for Florida against Vancouver, who's struggling, I think. But it's a nice photo there.
Yeah, no doubt. Big slate of games tonight, and tomorrow we'll be all over it with the latest reaction from last night's game. Look ahead, and we'll kind of start getting. It's Ehlers week, Ehlers return week. And of course, 2 big games, still great tickets available. A bunch on the resale market, actually on Ticketmaster, I was looking at for the game because we're sold out for our section. But if you go over there, if you go to Ticketmaster.ca, there's a few seats in and around the 316 area on resale at actually pretty decent prices. So while we are sold out for the section, if you want to join us in 316 for the game, because it's our next WST group game of the night, make that happen. Go to jets.com, and a couple kind of pretty good deals on Ticketmaster resale, which I hadn't really seen before, to be honest. But right in our row, I think we're in row 10, or at least I know our tickets are. So right around there. So there's your tip. If you're looking for seats, jump on those. As far as the WST games of the week starts, you can, if you're looking for maybe a gift for a friend for the holidays, go to winnipegjets.com/WST. We've got the Friday night game, Jets Kings, on January 9th, which should be a lot of fun. That's the après ski night where they're giving away the goggles, and we'll have the early entry. So we'll pretty much, I think, guarantee you your opportunity to get the giveaway item if you join us early before the game. And then the other one that I think you'll want to get your tickets for is the Habs game. That's an A game. The ticket is a little more expensive than the other games that we've done, but still a good deal. Includes the drink, a drink of your choice. And that's the final game before the Jets hit the road, or the team hits the road, I should say. Everyone goes on break. Last game before the Olympic break. And then we got 2 more, the Lightning game and the Flyer game in March, and then in April. And all the things are up there, winnipegjets.com/WST. All right, we got to get this pod up before the game tonight, so let's do that. Thank you all for being with us. Thanks to Scooch, Bob McElligott, Brandon Rewucki, and of course JBM for jumping on today. Feeling better. I made it through the show today. Was able to do our ad reads. So up and away for us, and hopefully the Jets tonight starting off this road trip. Enjoy the game tonight, everybody, and we'll see you back here at 1 p.m. Don't forget, after the game tomorrow morning, make sure to check out the WST podcast feed and YouTube channel for tonight's post-game reaction. Nice little bit to listen on your way to work tomorrow if you missed it. And, of course, we'll break it all down tomorrow live at 1 right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Have a great night. Thanks to all our sponsors. And go Jets, go.
Oh, my God. Oh! Shut it down. Let's go home.
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.